To the Real Study with your hosts, MrSniDBitS.
So like two teams with that movie, it seems like either people love it or they hate it. Okay, I do too. I do too.
Yeah. BlackGirlMarvel.
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tyler Makes Films.
It's meant for us to kind of contemplate. Like, I don't think his response to me is completely appropriate. Like, it makes sense that he would react that way.
Allthemoviethings.
I think the thing why I enjoyed it more too was the fact that we were going to talk about it from this perspective.
Lieutenant Commander Ray.
I can watch them. I never find anything wrong with them. I love them every single time I watch them. And this absolutely qualifies on that list.
And me, the Real Study movie voice guy.
I probably would have been in love with this movie as well if I had watched it earlier, like when it came out or maybe right after.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Study. My name is MrSniDBitS, and as always, with me to my left is BlackGirlMarvel, who likes to mess with me right before we start, so it's a little challenging. She always challenges me to the max. With us tonight, we've got Tyler Makes Films, and of course, Lieutenant Commander Ray. Know all the movie things this evening, but that's okay. He will be back next week.
Traitor. No, I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
I'm kidding.
work or something. I don't know, something like that.
Traitor.
That said, right? We do have a continuation of the, independent foreign films. This week it's all independent, and since we're just kind of A24 crazy here, we're going to continue doing A24 films. We've got Lady Bird, done by Greta Gerwig, and starring Saoirse Ronan. I'm going to say that wrong. Then we've got the Safdie brothers, Saoirse. Yeah, there we go. I said it wrong. It's MrSniDBitS to the core. Goodtime, which is a Safdie brothers film starring Robert Pattinson, as well as both of the Safdie brothers. And then we've got High Life with Robert Pattinson as well, and then Be a Goth. And then hopefully one day in the future, we will get to Marcel the Show. That said, we can move on over to the main screen and we can get to talking about some of these flicks. First, any news from anybody about any independent films or foreign films coming out? Anybody had any updates on the SAG-AFTRA strike? Because as far as we know, same old, and we're still waiting in a holding pattern along with everyone else. So,
Priscilla came out this weekend. So.
That's right. We were supposed to get Priscilla, so that's a good thing. Okay. Weren't you talking about it on social media? I thought you were. Maybe I was wrong.
Me?
No, you were talking about it in Discord, I think. Maybe something like that.
Oh, yeah, probably. Maybe.
I've
been a hermit. I have not been on social media in forever.
I think it's a trend. I think that because there was a time in which TikTok was like hopping in 2020, 2021, a little bit of 2022, right. And now it's just advertisements. And then like every sixth video will be a friend, maybe. So I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but yes. And with the strikes, that means nobody's on there talking about mainstream movies, although everybody's been talking about the debacle over at one of the studios with one of their big IPs, and it's been huge news this last week. But it's weird because it's like people are craving this need to talk about stuff. I don't know. It's almost like it can't not break through somehow. I mean, even on here, it's hard to talk about movies without bringing up other movies. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a tricky
it's
time.
Like I've seen a lot of people on social media talk about movies. There's a lot of people that do not care about the strike.
Yeah, they don't at all. Yep. Which is fine. I mean, because if you don't want to be a part of it, you don't have to.
You choose what you want to do.
Right.
You choose what you want to do. I'm not, that's your choice. But I've seen it more so. I feel like a lot of people are using this to gain followers, to gain people to be on their page, stuff like that, because you got like a nice chunk of the community not talking about it, trying to talk about maybe like more independent stuff or talk about the strike itself, and it's a lot of people who don't care about it, so they go to the people that's like, no, I'm gonna still talk about Across the Spideyverse and all these other things. And
I've seen people
all the stuff I want to talk about
breaking through, like people I've never seen before all of a sudden have 12,000 15,000 followers talking about movies, and I'm like, you were just happy to see everybody step aside for a little while. That's interesting.
Yep.
Which, it is what it is.
Monsters. Social media monsters.
I think in a time, the world we live in now, I think it's opportunistic, because you got to do what you got to do. Everybody's going to try to get their side hustle and do what they got to do to get some money.
No, I definitely
none of us are
understand
being paid enough. So,
because I had the mind to kind of be like, I had to really sit back and think for myself whether or not I was going to, ride with the strike and everything, because part of me is like, I'm not a part of SAG. I don't get paid when I do this. The commentary that I make for these movies, I don't get paid for them. I'm not getting any type of compensation or anything. So like, what difference does it make if I talk about it or not? Like, nobody is paying me for this. Like, I'm just doing this for fun because I like it. But then as an actor myself, I was like, how would I feel if I was going through this with the studio or with SAG and everything like that? I would want my fans to respect that and step aside to just in solidarity, regardless if they were making money or not. So I had to like really like take some inventory of myself and really sit back and be like, am I gonna do it? But I was like, I'm gonna do it, because if it was me, I would want y'all to do that too. I would want y'all to kind of like stand with us, because we all working this together, whether we realize it or not. Like, people who go see movies help fuel actors and writers and directors in these companies. So it's like, if we all stand together, like, it can actually change for the betterment of everybody involved. So
right.
I mean, they know, the studios know whether they want to offer more deals or contracts to people who do TikTok. Like, TikTok is, really the biggest platform when it comes to movie reviewers making short form content. And we saw a bunch of movie YouTubers switch over to, or at least start making shorter cuts of their videos to TikTok. So the fact that there's been so many huge TikTokers not reviewing movies in solidarity with
and going down and like picketing, like going down and actually getting on the picket line, which has been pretty cool to see.
That's definitely impacted them. They know
for
it,
sure.
and they're like, "Oh, you should probably make a deal." Yeah, you probably should.
Yeah,
you probably should before this even happens. Like, just pay people. Like you don't lose money by giving money. You actually make money. Like that, and that's what people don't understand. Like, you make money by like giving money. Like, you make money by making sure that these people are taken care of, because what they'll do, they'll turn around and keep making movies because they know they'll get paid, they'll get fairly compensated, and guess what? We'll keep making money as a group.
Right.
Like,
look at all of us making money together. Wow.
You know what I mean? Wow, it can be done. Like,
wow.
But they're like, but I can't control you. I can't control you if everybody's making the same thing. So.
Right. If we're all equal, who's better? If we're all equal. It's crazy.
It's weird.
Oh, Snitty, you got on glasses. You look nice.
Yeah. No, I've had to wear them more. I appreciate that, but it's more of a necessity than a want.
So what? You look nice. Take the compliment.
I appreciate that. I do.
I have to yell at you. Sorry.
No, you're fine. My wife is happy that I'm wearing them too. She's like, good.
She's like, you can finally see me in focus.
Yeah, I'm like reverse Superman. Like, I'm a like heathen when them off with them off, but as soon as I put them on, it's like +2 charisma. It's pretty great.
That's hilarious. He like that red's coming real good with the glasses. I love it.
It does. And then the little grin. Doesn't, none of that hurts.
Oh, look at him.
Yeah, I have confidence today. It's because of the glasses. I don't know. It's weird. More eyes help. I don't know what that is. So that that
was good.
I should probably do like a
Ty said he approves.
Something like that. Or I'm just lame. I think it's really just that I'm lame. So we have a few movies to talk about,
agree.
and we can actually take these in the order that you guys would like, because normally I do them in chronological, but they all kind of came out within like 3 years of each other, so it's not 2 in 1 year and then 1 2 years later. So
I watched them longest to shortest.
I almost feel like I want to do High Life first, because I want to leave with one of the other two on one of those notes.
That's how I watched them. I watched it High Life, Good Times, and Lady Bird. That's literally how I watched it because it's longest to shortest. That's how they came out.
I watched I watched Lady Bird and then High Life and then Good Times. It took me 2 settings to get through High Life. I just was like, I'm gonna
see that.
I'll finish it tomorrow.
Yeah. I can see that. I watched everything today. So
wow, you're a beast. I don't know how you do that. Like, respectfully,
I wanted to make sure.
I try to know as early in the week so I can watch like one at a time.
It's because I don't manage my time correctly, and
she's studying for the quiz the night before, right?
The night before, and you know what I usually do? I usually ace it or get a B. I'm just saying, I've done it before, but. Like, I don't manage my time correctly, and because I had a comic convention, I had a panel at UmaCon this Saturday. Took my whole time, and so I was like, "Well, shit, I'm gonna have to watch everything on Sunday." And I usually always throw off my weeks like that. Like, we've been like before, it was like we didn't do the movies until like the middle of the week, and I was just like, "Well, shit, I gotta figure it out." But we do them like top of the week now, and I have the allotted time, but the management is poor.
With these ones, because they're A24, and when you guys are using my Vudu, you can't we can't all watch it at the same time. Law and I have run into this before, so I just started getting on this quickly. I haven't done it on purpose. I'm just not always used to something. I know. So this time I was like, okay, I got to get started right away. So I watched Good Time. I think like Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever we finalized picking them, I watched it that night. But I always worry because if I watch it like a week ahead, then I'm like. Do I remember all the details? Do I have to kind of sit and wait? What does everybody else have to say? Oh, I remember that.
I usually try to start I usually try to do it within like a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. So like I try to do like a movie each one of those days, because if I can like watch the last movie on Sunday, I kind of remember the other ones that they're not too far apart. But again, piss poor management of my time. So Sunday it'd be all tree. I'll look at the movie.
Yes,
I'll see how long. Yes, sir. Steve. I'll see how long they run, and I'll just round them all up. So I'll be like 2, 4, 6. Okay, 6 hours. If I wake up at this time, I'll be done by like maybe 5. That way I don't have to rush myself. It's a whole thing. My brain just be.
You're like, Lady Bird's only an hour and a half. Perfect. I got it.
I was shocked.
Listen, that's what I do. Honestly. That's why I usually do longest to shortest, because by the time you get to the shortest one, if I'm creeping up on like the 8:30, 8:45, which I've been knocking it out, getting done by like 7:15, and but if I'm like make it up that way, I can be like, okay, it's the shortest one, so I could kind of like skate through it a little bit. I wish Vudu would let me speed up the time like Netflix does. If they let me speed up the time, it'll be beautiful if they let me do that.
With High Life, that makes sense because anyway, so why don't we get into High Life? I know that Ray had specifically said I do not want to go first on this film, so I totally respect it. This is one of those movies, and I want to just put this out front. I know most people, we want them to watch them before tonight so that but then some people use this as a okay, they described it in such a fun way, I'll check it out. So I get that you'll watch it on either end. So if you are a person that can be triggered easily by SA, don't watch High Life. Just don't even go near the movie.
Very true.
And I didn't even, because I don't read the synopsis anymore, like Law doesn't either. I don't watch previews. I saw the
mention it as far as I read, because I did read it.
And it still didn't mention.
And I am triggered.
But if we're being honest, though, a lot of films, if the focus isn't on SA, they won't even mention it in the thing. So like, it's one of those like, I'm gonna have to either watch it and get traumatized and stop it, or I'm gonna watch it and be like, shit, and then
where they say
they keep going.
Kids,
Well, I think
for sure.
On IMDb, it'll actually break down to like every little piece of it. We'll have to look at that for sure for next time. Because it'll talk about sexuality.
My alarm and the fire detector might be beeping in the background because I'm black. I don't change the battery. So. Just is what it is.
Do you want me to ship you a few batteries? I have no problem with that. It's not that you don't have the batteries, you just don't change them.
I just don't change them. I'm surprised it went off. Like, I'm just like, you usually last until we leave. Like,
I thought that was like a general person thing, because like every apartment I've ever been in,
a lot of people. I have noticed a lot. Specifically because of TikTok, I've noticed a lot of people. I'm like, you realize that's for your like life. You're supposed
no, that's really for my safety.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like,
but I live in the living room. There's no like wall between me and the kitchen. I mean, there is, but there is still an open floor pan. If I'm gonna die, that ain't helping me. Like I'm gonna just die because I'm right by the kitchen. If something, fire,
and the smoke might get you before the fire ever does. Doing phone support, I hear it a lot more than I think people would want to know.
Bet.
It's a like.
So I just want to let y'all know it's back there.
But no, normally we don't like. It's never been one I've heard in 3 years. I've never heard you have that going off. So.
But that's what I'm saying though, right? That's why I was like, when it happened, I was watching TV and it beeped, and I was like, huh, what? I was like, where?
You're like, how long has that been going on for? Like,
all of a sudden, I was like, it couldn't.
It doesn't drive you crazy?
It can't have been that long.
No.
Drives me crazy.
It woke me up, and then I was like, huh, and turned back around and went to sleep because.
Oh, I will take one and like take it outside, bury it in the ground. Like I can't.
All you gotta do is take the battery out; it'll stop beeping.
I've seen them still chirp with the battery out, so I don't know if that's
like an
true.
episode of Friends. It's like an episode of Friends where Phoebe couldn't get the smoke alarm to stop beeping.
That happened to me.
It's like that's like one of her That's one of her funniest like episodes. I just want to say that. Also, rip to Matthew Perry. I'm gonna say that for a while because.
Yeah, we did talk about him last week, but it's been a week of finding out even more about it. So.
I wore this shirt just for him, so you know.
I thought it was a Betty White situation. I thought it was kind of a joke at first, and then I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Well, especially hearing like in a hot tub, you're like, what? No.
Right. Like I was like, oh.
I actually almost took it the same way I took it when Anton Yelchin passed because he got crushed by his car next to a mailbox. Like, what?
A lot of stuff I don't believe. At this point, I need Variety to say something. If Variety says it happened, I'm like, it happened.
With entertainment
like,
stuff.
Variety says,
like,
yeah.
Because, or if a main news organization says it, I might believe it too. But if an entertainment,
I don't look at the news, so I need Variety to say it.
Well, you look at entertainment news. I'm just saying, if like CNN said it, you'd be like, oh, okay, CNN said it. It must be at least. It's unlikely. It's not TMZ, is what I'm saying. Like CNN and TMZ.
I feel like no. I would do but I would. For me, Variety is my CNN, so I'm just like that's my. So I'm just kind of like.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair.
All right, Tyler, get us into High Life. Let's talk about this. What is it? 2019 film. I cannot pronounce the director's name.
2018, I think.
Oh, then they're only like 2 years.
Is it Claire Denis? She's a French director.
That's why.
After watching this movie,
Claire Denis.
Yeah.
She's
after
French,
watching this movie, I realized, this is very much a French like. The French are weird, man. I'm sorry. Like French films, whoa. Anyway,
especially with the sexuality, like that's a big factor with French film.
High Life is about prisoners on this suicide mission that they don't know is a suicide mission, basically to get energy from this black hole, and it's not a linear story, and it's just a kaleidoscope of random, maybe not random
behavior.
Human behavior. Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's all
people
it is.
Trying to be humans. Robert Pattinson's in there. Mia Goth is still
I love it.
Mia Goth is still like unnerving. Like there's something like
she always plays weird, quirky characters. Like that's her niche.
Yeah, but I mean, she married Shia LaBeouf apparently, so you can take that however you will.
Like currently married to him?
Yeah.
Like they've been together for a while. He said that I just want to intercut real quick because like his story to me is like a very much like a pull myself under my bootstraps because of how he grew up. Because we all know like Honey Boy was kind of like his biography in a sense, and so he said that when he met her, he said he's never met anybody that like
was as weird as he is.
Him for him. Kind of, yeah, but also just loved him for him. Like when he was in rehab, he was like, nobody came to visit me, but she would come and visit me, even though we weren't together.
I saw the
like we broke up.
That was a good interview.
Yeah, that was an amazing interview. And he just talked about how much he loves her and how much like he's never really felt actual love before until he like met her. And I was like, good on you, man, because he's actually one of our generation's greatest like actors. Like. He just really is, despite all his, background and things that happened to him. It's a really good actor, and he deserves to have somebody in his corner because he said that his, he didn't have it from his family. He had issues with his dad and stuff like that. So to finally find that, like, it was pretty dope.
I think child stars in general.
Disturbia was like one of his best films.
Oh no, it's actually fun. That's a fun movie. I like that movie.
No, Disturbia was great. I loved it.
So you've got Mia Goth, you've got Robert Pattinson, you got Andre 3000 just, thrown in there because why not?
Because he's Andre 3000.
I mean, but he's not, I don't really think, he's acted a couple of things, but like you don't think of him as an actor. You think of him as, as a singer, as a rapper.
Right.
And talented as hell. But just, I was like, oh, well, okay. And he had a profound part. Anyway, go tell us what you thought of the film and kind of why you kind of already mentioned you might like this film.
I think I will say I understand people not liking it. Like it's very like I would not recommend this to anybody. Like it's very specific and like I was telling you earlier before like we start like when I first came on I was like, man, if I had watched this because I was putting it off for a very long time. If I had watched this in 2018, I don't think I would have been able to sit through it. But now I don't know. I don't know if it's like just because we've gone through like we've been through COVID and all of that stuff that like that sense of like isolation and like what that can like do to a person. I don't know. I think I could kind of relate to this movie a little bit more. I did actually enjoy the fact that it was like a space movie that wasn't like it was like anti-blockbuster. It was very like no laser swords, no like gunfights, space battles or anything. It was very like uncomfortable because there would be a lot of scenes where there's just like kind of just nothing happening and like you're kind of just like forced to sit in it and it's like there's something like unnerving about that. And I also just don't like I mean I love it but I also don't like it like space movies that make because space is fucking terrifying. Like just the thought of like how much it's not like what's in space, it's what's not out there, like the emptiness. Like that's just like super scary to me. But yeah, I mean, there are certain things like I enjoyed like to see visually like someone getting spaghettified. Like if you were to, because I kind of read about like what happens if a person were to theoretically go into a black hole, right? They would be like stretched until nothing.
The gravity alone would just rock you before you got stretched, but yes, and I think that's what
it's giving Doctor Strange 2 Reed Richards, it's giving.
See, I kind of felt like High Life was like a really raw Interstellar without the like happy-go-lucky ending, where it was much more like no, fuck, the universe is terrible.
I don't know, that ending for Interstellar was just very sad to me.
Sure, it was sad.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I won't spoil it for you. But I just meant for me personally, like how it ended. It it just
it has to do with black holes.
Interstellar on the show,
but, I apologize.
I mean, this movie was like black holes and a lot of like just so much. We were talking about that too. A24 has this thing. I just like I don't. Every time it comes up now, it's like okay.
I mean, this is the third film with male with jizz. We'll just put it out there with the male ejaculate in 3 weeks. Why. It's every week for 3 weeks.
So I can't. I hated it. I'm sorry.
No, please.
Right.
I like a kind of kitschy film, like a film that knows who it wants to make, like who they were making that movie for, which I am not that person. But in this case, my issue, and I think that the issue I had with this was very similar to what was the one that we watched with Christian Bale?
And
something
Knight
else.
of Cups.
It has some like, oh my god,
Yeah.
This was slightly better than that.
I must not have been here for that one either.
I think that I want to try and separate the acting from what the story was and what it looked like when you like compartmentalize it. I feel like they did what they could with what was written. Like Binoche, like, why did you agree to this movie? Like, I don't understand her being in this movie. Like, I feel like that role could have gone to a more obscure actress who
give her like
had
a
some chops,
a shot or something like that.
right? Because I think that character would have been more interesting if I wasn't distracted by Binoche like humping a sex rocker. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I try not to swear on here, but like, what is happening?
We swear it's okay. Please don't hesitate to if you feel like it.
I want to know, was she under obligation? Was she under obligation, or was she like, did she actually read this and be like, oh yeah, I like this?
Like, I only rated this a half a star on Letterboxd so I could write a review for it.
I gotta go read that.
When she raped him, I was like, that's a 0 for me,
Mm-hmm.
bro. I can't do it. I was like, what? It was just like really creepy. And like my whole thing was like, they were talking about wanting to harness the energy from the black hole, which like that makes sense. I understand why you would do that. Or make that attempt, because they are supposed to be super powerful. If you can harness it, then of course you have endless power. But also, what was the reproductive study? Like, I just don't understand, like, what was that? If they're never going to make it back to Earth, what's the point of the reproductive study? Like,
so they can send the information back about how radiation affects Earth, I would assume.
Centuries have already passed.
I know. And it's like, bizarre that they would want to send that out. But it sounds like humanity's in trouble anyway, from what I gathered from the film. It sounded like humanity's already struggling. That's why they're out there.
Yeah, I had to kind of like, to be honest, I had to kind of like read up on things to kind of like understand what was kind of happening.
Yeah. You got anything else, Ray, or do you?
Him and this baby, and then we go through. I like the structure of the movie made sense. Like, here's where we are at the beginning. Here's him trying to create ways to save energy, right? We don't want to have the refrigerator on or the freezer keeping these people in cryostasis, so they're all dead, and then we're finding out how they all died, basically. Which I'm like, okay, like altogether the concept of this movie should have made a better movie, but it was terrible for me personally.
All right. La, what do you think? High life.
I'm just gonna say, let me start with what I liked. Let's start with what I liked. I thought aesthetically it was nice to look at, because it was like the set was a beautiful set. It was the different colors they would have like on the backgrounds and things like that. Space honestly didn't look like nope, that's a bad thing. Hold up. I enjoyed the performances. Cute. The baby was cute. It wasn't animatronic or
that naked baby. I was pissed off about why we were looking at a naked baby.
Listen.
I was so angry.
Listen, the okay, that's part of what I didn't like. Hold up, let me still get to the parts.
The animatronics baby was really beautiful.
Was very beautiful. I like the greenery. I honestly enjoyed the acting from the people, because this is what they were giving, and they and they did it nicely. But overall, I'm kind of with Ray. Not even kind of. I'm with Ray. Because I don't understand what for. Right? That's my whole question. What for? Like, I feel like all films, even in their own obscurity, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's such a weird film. But it makes sense. I won't say anything, but it's a weird film.
Hi, turn it down. I'm sitting over here with the exclamation face. I get it. Okay.
We're gonna have to we have to watch both of those now.
No, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Because I didn't get to talk about it because I wasn't here when you guys did talk about it that one time, so I wasn't here for that.
So we'll have a redo for both of those.
Yeah, or maybe I was, but I don't. Okay, but I would love a redo. I have no problem with that. But I'm with Ray on this, because I was really trying to understand what for. Why are we doing this? What was our reasonings for this? Right? Honestly, maybe I drifted off somewhere because didn't know anything about a black hole. Didn't understand why they kept looking at one. I didn't understand why she kept looking to do reproduction. After a while, I felt like this was all a ploy to get terrible people off the Earth. Right. Because at this point, you're light years away. Any information that you send is outdated 100%. At this point. And they put a bunch of murderers with a bunch of murderers. Just like they put a bunch of stray dogs or like rabid dogs and a bunch of stray, like you don't want these things on Earth. It's like you were trying to create like a perfect Earth, but that's a whole different plot point that they didn't even bring into the movie for you to understand if that's what they were going for. So, that being said, and I understand this is a French film, and I understand that like the French sensibilities are different from Americans. They feel we're more prudish to everything, but there is no reason for you to have the vagina of a child
not
on camera.
Reason. None.
I understand, like maybe because like babies are babies, right? We all come out flat chested, we all come out little chunky. If you want to show her arms, her chest, her back, whatever, her booty, because we've seen things like that before. We've seen like the birth of children on ER and they be naked, but there is no reason her vagina should have been on screen. As a parent, you should have not let her vagina be on, as long as it was. And for no reason. It's different if like it's different if it was like a here and then they went somewhere else, but they lingered on this water falling down this baby's chest and on her vagina, and I was like, I almost stopped the film right there. I was like, oh my god. I was like, what was the need for that? There was no
there.
No, it's like he
took an angry lap and was like,
you feel me? I was like, that makes no sense. I was like, that's not even a plot point of this story. So what are we doing? Yeah, this wasn't for me. Like I said, aesthetically, cinematography wise, it was beautiful. It had great shots. It had great moments. I will say when she was drifting off into the nothingness, it looked like she was laying on black felt that looked like
yes.
And I was like, is this what they were going for? Because I was like, I've seen better space stuff in other things, and I was like,
for sure.
He was able to just take those bodies outside and dump them off the edge, which I thought was really odd for space. He dropped his wrench in the beginning. Like, what?
Right.
You're traveling at 99% the speed of light, and you can just
just drop them off. Okay,
yeah, okay. It just doesn't seem.
But I will say this though. This is the only thing about the film that I thought, and I'm gonna keep this because it's the only thing that makes it slightly decent in my mind. I don't think that little girl exists. I think she is a figment of his imagination because I feel like he killed that baby when he was in the bed with her. Because there is a scene where he's literally telling her, like, I could have just, drowned you in a tub.
Well, that to me brings up the question of whether or not you should.
And then he puts his hand in a certain position as he's laying down. And I'm sure if you were choking a child will make noise or she will cry, but you never know because they have a small windpipe. You could probably mute that with a choke. True. But I feel like he killed her, and she is a figment of his imagination. And that's why at the end, he's like, are you ready to go? Like, you don't see them in the ship anymore, and they walk within this like line. That's just how I chose to look at the ending of it. Because other than that, it's such an abstract film, and I have no connection to it. I don't have any understanding of it. But I would like to think that, because think about it, she was driving him crazy. That baby was driving him crazy the entire time.
Well, I mean,
be quiet, shush, shush, shush.
That's
also
just
my question
part of
is
being a dad, like that.
No,
that was
all very parents.
The like baby parts felt very just normal to me.
No,
I was like, I have a baby that's a little older than that.
But there are people who can't take that and they kill their children.
True. But we also know that
he
killed somebody, but he was probably the least violent and the least aggressive of the entire group.
You are isolated in space. Everybody has been murdered by somebody, or you have murdered somebody.
Sure.
You're by yourself. You're depleting of food. Also, how was he feeding her when her mother, who had all the milk, killed herself essentially? So the fact that this child even was able to get to a preteen, in my eyes, don't even make sense.
You saw the pumpkin.
Well, because what were you
I think she was
giving her to nourish her? I choose to believe she wasn't. That's just
I don't know. I think she was real.
Because to me that makes it interesting enough for me to be like that part was interesting for me. Because I'm sorry, the way that he placed his hand on her and laid down, it looked like he killed her from my perspective. But that was just me.
I think it would have needed to be a little bit more overt. There was nothing that subverted within the story that tried to hide itself. It was a film about
film that's very
it's a film about the propagation of the human species. It's all about sexuality and the propagation of the human species. This is my take. So you've got all of this sexuality in one way or another, whether it be trying to make babies in a very radioactive environment, or trying to even raise a child, is kind of the after effects of sexuality, because that's where babies come from. But then you've got the SA side of it, which is kind of the dark side, and a bunch of prisoners. So it's like, even in the worst situations with the worst people, do you still make a go of it? Do you still try to push the beast forward? I think there was an element of that within the film. At least that's what I picked up on it.
Yeah, I kind of read that. That's what I was gonna say about like the ending. I think because what I read, this isn't like I had to read about it, but the whole thing with the dogs, like I think he saw that, and like the ship was just literally full of dogs, and I think a lot of those dogs, the last scene is like they started like they had to mate with each other, and I think when he was with his daughter, it's like that humanity. It's like, are you willing to do that? And he said, no, I'm not. Like I would not do that.
Well, they insinuate it. They show her have her period, right? Then they show her kind of sexualized, which was really odd. But she was wearing scantily, a shirt that showed her more than you'd expect from his daughter just hanging about. And then the dogs tell me everything. I think that dogs was another ship that, because we sent dogs up in space in the 60s and we sent chimps up in space in the 60s. It was another ship to see what would happen to, 25 dogs and what they would do. And then they did the same thing with humans, which really degraded the fact that these prisoners were really just dogs. Like they were sent
basically
up there to be
dogs. Yeah.
It's a film that's definitely trying to look at the awful side of people, which you can't do without showing some awful side of people. So like I get that it's definitely not for everybody. And I think the film's artistic side hurt it, but I think that there's something there. There is something there.
I like that at the very least, there was like, that's why I think that the ending saved whatever little bit like stuff about the movie that I liked, because it was like Robert Pattinson, like his character was like, we're gonna kill ourselves rather than do that. I would never do that.
I'm not an animal.
He's like, I'm not gonna. Yeah.
Right.
And just having sort of like the choice to do that, like, because they're put in a lot of situations where I think these people don't feel like they have choices, which is why I think Mia Goth's character eventually like kills herself.
Well, she was also heavily violated. She literally was doing everything in her power not to have a baby. She was saying willfully, I will not let you in. I do not. And then did it to her in her sleep. And what sucks is they were all sedated. So like there was a slight amount of sedation in the water. Then that's why she was able to essay him and her.
My question is, why were the women like held down, but the men weren't?
That is another interesting question.
I feel like that was already a recipe for disaster.
Well, they wanted them to have babies. So
everybody on here was like murderers. Everybody on here was murderers, but you tie down the women, but you don't tie down the men. I was like, that was just wild.
Well, look who they put in charge. They put in charge a psycho killer. Like the nurse was in charge, but also she murdered her own children. Like,
yeah, as soon as she revealed that, I was like, what?
Yeah,
as soon as we got to the sex box, I was like, where the fuck is this movie going? Like, because it was fine until then. I was like, this is interesting. This is like a character study, then what?
I just felt like it was overtly sexual for no reason. I just felt like it was just like overtly sexual for no reason.
I can totally see
as explicit as it needed to be.
But as I was saying, I think the reason it was explicit was because they were trying to drive home the explicit nature of propagation of the species. Like
it's possible to do that and it not be this movie.
I agree. I didn't think this was a good movie.
That's how
I didn't love it.
I feel like it could have. I feel like it could have been. It could have taken a different turn. It could have went a different way with how they wanted to show it. Like if you wanted to show like human nature, even down to like, essay and all these other kind of things, you can do it. It's just that it felt like it was done without purpose. It felt like it was like, let me lead this girl into this nice barn. Oops, she tripped and her boob fell out. How did that happen? Like, it's like, that's not how that happens. You know what I mean? It's just like, it could have, you can still do that. It just, I think the way that it was directed or written or led up to it just didn't, for me, it didn't translate correctly. It just felt like skin and sex and sexual assault and all these things for just because we can do this in the movie.
Right. Have you guys seen or heard of a movie called Prospect? It has what is his name from The Last of Us? He's God, what is his name?
Pedro Pascal?
Yeah. It's called Prospect. I would say, like, if you could take High Life and just focus on the daughter and the father, that's like Prospect would be the better movie. Like, that would be the movie that you should probably watch over this one. So.
I mean, I feel like if they just open up the dialogue a little bit more, it's a lot of silence. It's a lot of like maybe one person talking. It's a lot of like, I feel like if they open up the dialogue more, because this is why one of those films where I was like, you could have gave us a little bit more talking. You could have gave us a little bit more explanation. Like again, you don't most films don't have to overly explain things to people. It's not an anime. You got to tell me every step that this person is making. But in a film like this, either you want us to create our own decisions, our own conclusions, i.e. me feeling like he killed his daughter and lost his mind, and that was like a figment of his imagination, because after it kept going, he stopped doing his rituals. He stopped cleaning himself up. He stopped shaving himself. He stopped doing these things. And I would feel like that's a depression, something you would do if you took something away from yourself.
Yeah, but even just dying in space with your daughter would be depressing. Like you wouldn't, you know.
Because all these people died, and I was trying to figure out into
too.
The black hole too, right? Or I don't
understand what it seemed like
they were going.
Around it, and the whole pilot thing was to get as close as they could to it, and then they, you know, obviously Goth didn't know how to fly that.
Well, and like that's why
you cannot fly around the horizon of a black hole, like.
You can supposedly you can slingshot yourself, but I was like,
I mean, you can. I mean, that's gravity.
This film had like, what did they say? They said physicist and black hole expert Aurelian Baru was hired as a consultant, and then Danish Icelandic artist Oliver Ellison or something like that designed the film Spacecraft. I was like, you put this much energy into something that I still don't understand.
Well,
like, I wouldn't have even known if this stuff was real or not. Like you showing black holes with no real like meat to why I need to care about like this black hole or them drifting towards it. And you brought in experts for realism, and I'm still kind of like, you probably could have saved that money for the budget.
Not knowing.
I think like, the art of this film got in the way of this film. Like they were trying to go for artistic when they could have just gone straight forward, and it would have hit better.
Which is
and
funny
I feel like A24 does that a lot.
Like
100%.
But they still like. So let me give an example. The opening of this movie is all off-key jazz while looking at the plants. Like what? Why?
Yeah, because Robert Pattinson is on the screen.
But the off-key jazz, I was just like, are you trying to set a tone of this is unsettling? Because I'm like, turn that off. Like, I'm not unsettled. Right, I'm annoyed. And there's a difference between unsettled and annoyed. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just think A24 has moments where their artistry gets in the way of the story that they're trying to tell. And then you have something like Everything Everywhere All at Once where it meshes very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like this weird story and the art of it, and it's simple art too, but it has a big impact. And so it's like it's yeah.
So I think like and like I put this in my like I said, my Letterboxd review. I think that as a studio, they are a highly aesthetic based film creator, and they gravitate towards producing stories that are beautiful to look at, but not their goal, I don't think, is for not that it should be the filmmaker's goal, but ease of understanding. I don't feel like, because they're focused on maybe different type of stories, that the goal is not for it to be mainstream by any means. And that's okay. But I don't think sacrificing the story for it to be beautiful or disregarding the story because it's beautiful makes sense. Like, I think that they do have a bright future but
that won't keep them in the long run, though. That won't keep them in the long run, because it's like, how many times am I gonna go and watch an A24 film?
Because it's the same thing,
and come out not understanding, and it come out not. That's how I felt about the Green Knight too. Aesthetically beautiful,
stunning.
But what was the point of this?
See, like
exactly. Like I don't like feeling like what was the point. I understand a movie that doesn't make me feel good at the end, but I want it to be because the story leaves you with those types of feelings, not because the story is lacking any type of dimension. This just felt like prisoners are not people. Let's use them for their reproductive abilities to see. They basically turn them into scientific experiments, which I
Guinea
despise.
pigs.
I don't agree or appreciate the decision to remove the humanity. Like prisoners, and even, I mean, really, like you may be the worst of the worst, but you are still a human when it comes down to it, and there is still humanity in that. And I like when, like, I've seen interviews with Christoph Waltz talk about having played a lot of villains, and his attachment to the character is in the humanity of the character. Like even when you think about characters like Thanos, like there was a lot of depth in his characterization that led him to be this maniacal person, right? But this movie is like, we don't care. You're savages, you're nothing. We don't care. We're going to use the only thing that you're left good for, which is the rise and fall of your monitor. You're alive, and we're going to use you for reproduction. But other than that, you have no purpose, you have no value. And I don't like that. I don't feel like it sends a message that there is redemption. Like the fundamental belief that people cannot be redeemed is why our prison system is the way that it is, because once they're entered into the system, they are not treated as if they can still be valuable members of society. I mean, think about how many prisoners there are in America, and once you're a felon, you lose your right to vote. Their voice is never heard again. You know what I'm saying? As far as
that depends on the state, but yes,
it depends on the state. And so when we have stories like this, where because the use or the use of prisoners, not necessarily in this way, but as just bodies, right? Just as bodies, is not a new concept. I really feel like this movie could have been interesting.
Oh, this could have been very interesting.
They made
if it wasn't in
significant choices. You know what I mean? Like even the space part, I understand, but like some acknowledgement that they were given a choice, because usually in situations like this is like, do you want to stay in prison? Do you want to stay in solitary?
It sounded like they had a choice.
It's a deal.
There was a moment they were showing that.
They were not given a choice in the fact that they were never going to return to Earth. They were not told that. So that I think is a vital part of the acceptance of the mission, is like, yes. And because when Andre's character was like, he kind of was on that personal redemption. He had memories of his kids and his girlfriend or wife or whatever, and the memories, like things that he had told them about. He wanted to, and to just show him laying down and dying in the garden, like, bro, like he
went out like a Jedi too.
He's the only like he just like disappeared into nothing. Like he was the only person who had like a slightly humane death.
Correct.
Like everybody else died very gruesome, very kind of like bloody. He's like the only person who had like a humane death. And I felt like Robert Pattinson's character was the character that they were trying to like redeem in a way. Like, yeah, he murdered somebody, but my thing is this: he a psycho that killed a psycho. Because if you killed my dog, the first thing I don't think of is killing you. So like, let's not try to make it seem like he's a slightly better one. Like he was just a psycho that killed a psycho. Like, so, and then he grew up to like, think about it, he killed people on the ship with no, like, kind of like no remorse. Usually if you kill somebody and you feel bad about it, you throw up. That's what all movies show us, that you throw up.
Yeah, but those are movies. I don't know how it really is to kill someone. So,
but we're watching a movie, so it still stands that like if he felt that way,
using movie logic, I'm with you.
To explain the movie, I'm just saying, like, so
no, I like it.
If he felt remorse, I'm pretty sure they would have wrote the cliche. He would have threw up somewhere or felt some type of thing. So like, they tried to turn him into this character that we like could like root for and hopefully care for, but it was like, for me, the droning on of the droning on of the scenes for me was just too long, and like didn't add any value to it. Like Tyler said on his point, I liked the moments when it was like him and his daughter, he was trying to figure it out and he was just on all these things, and then it kind of just jumped to her being older. Like we didn't get those middle parts to for me personally to get those connections to where she is older, because it's like, how does she learn? Does she only learn from these images? Are there books? How like
well, they kind of go into that. She has the computer components. She even talks about how she learned about his past by reading his file.
Yeah, by reading those files, but I'm like, what else more do you
that's it.
Do you have, you know what I mean? Like I would have loved moments of him kind of teaching her things that he's learned on Earth.
But I don't think it was about their relationship. I don't think the movie even was about them in that way.
That's what I'm saying though. To Ty's point, it would have been for me, it would have been a more successful movie if it was about their relationship, because I won't say it's not only about their relationship, because the relationship is a component within this film. It might not be the highest thing on the priority, but it's like, it's a reason why she's there. It's a reason why they showed her in the bed with him. There's a reason why they showed her getting her period. There's a reason why they showed her praying. There's you know what I mean? There's reasons for her being there. I just don't feel like they utilized it in the right way for me to even care, about what's going on after everybody done up and died and you shoved everybody's bodies out into space. Like, what's left?
Was Mia Goth in that pile of bodies? Because I swear I remember seeing her, and then that would make no sense.
No, she wasn't. The one he was talking about, which like I really thought that they were going to do more, because the only one that he actually spoke to was the other brown-haired girl.
The pilot
who tried to save her. No, the pilot was the blonde one.
Oh, that's right. Pilot.
She was the one who stabbed the guy to death.
The one that got stabbed the guy in the eye 3 times or whatever. That was great.
When he said to her that she was like light,
the lightest. She was like, he's like, you're the lightest one. Like he just. I was like, okay.
To show that that one piece of connection, like that he would speak to her, even her body, and because she was the one that he looked at, he unzipped her and looked at her before he took her body out of the bag. So it's like, why show him looking at her tenderly or speaking to her before he sends her body off into space,
right?
If during the part when we were going to
alive and well, we didn't see any of that,
right? Learning about them, seeing how they died, that there was zero connection there.
I think it was because we were supposed to not know who the mother was for a while, because at one point I questioned whether it was ultimately going to be the nurse or whether it was another girl.
But she said it in the video. But she said it in the video of her dying. That's why that was a confusion to me too, because they kept calling Mia Goth's character the big booty girl, the big booty one. And I was like, one, where's her booty? And then two, I was like, where's her booty? Because what are we talking about? And then because she told him before she died, he was like, that's your daughter. And then she was like, she's a strong one, just like that big booty, whatever she called her. So like he knew who she was, who the mother was. He just didn't tell her.
No, I'm saying from us. So it wasn't about him not knowing. For half of the movie, so we see the baby right away. So like, whose baby is this? Like, then we see Dada. Okay, it's his baby, but obviously, who else's baby is it? So you question yourself through the film, whose baby is this? Whose baby? And then they start to introduce the women. They start to show that they're trying to propagate babies. They show that none of them are able to have babies. The one woman has been impregnated, but it's not going well.
I didn't care.
No, I know, but it to me, that's what I was picking up
I get what you're saying. That's what I didn't get from you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was
because I was like,
I kept asking myself,
once Mia Goth started, once the whole Mia Goth thing, I was like, oh, that's her. I was like, oh, that's her baby. Like, I didn't even like. That's what I'm saying. For me, I was so disconnected throughout this whole thing that I didn't care who the child was. Like for me, it could have just been a random person's kid that they died, and now he's just taking care of the kid. Like I didn't care at all who
I think it was almost they wanted it to be mysterious. Like I understand what you're saying, Cindy, but like it was almost too obvious that these are the two people most resistant to being procreated.
Right.
That they would be the ones that she forcibly made have a baby. You know what I mean? Like they're the most resilient. Therefore, they would be the ones that she actually impregnated. I was like, okay, well, this Black girl's clearly going to die of whether it was a miscarriage or whatever.
Or a hemorrhage or something.
What was going to end up happening.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
That she
Which
was,
part of me is like, how did she
girl,
die when like you've been wanting these people to get pregnant? You think you would take the utmost care with the pregnant one to make sure that her baby came to full term, but it was too
she
much
also
people
liked
say,
to kill babies, so that doesn't. I don't know. The nurse wasn't a real nurse. Not only that, the amount of radiation that they were exposed to, the fact that kid was born and survived birth is They were right. They had the strongest genes. Like that's why
I don't think she exists. That's why she's.
The amount of radiation that you get in space is already really ridiculous. But they tried to address it. But being an artistic film, it is about these little intricacies that we're talking about. This is the whole point of the film is to make us talk. And we've talked about this movie for 50 minutes. That's a long time for a movie. We all were like,
but we're talking about our dislikes and what they could have did better. I feel like this is still a good conversation, but I also feel like if it was a conversation of a movie that was worthy of it, it would be like, okay, what did you get from this? But I got this. Oh man, but maybe this was this. Right. Like it would have more of that. And we're like, yo, this could have been better. And they could have not did this. And we can talk about that. We can talk about that for the next hour.
Oh, there was one thing. Oh yeah, please. No, please.
No, I was just gonna say like exactly one thing that I did like, and I agree with everything you guys have been saying about like, because I feel like the journey to get to the end, unfortunately, diminishes a lot of like what made the ending. I think to me, probably the best part of that movie was like, I like that it was him and his daughter going into this black hole, and like for them, it was like two completely different reasons. Like for him, he knows what happens when you go into a black hole. He's seen it. Like you get spaghettified,
right?
And explode. But for her, and I think that's why they skipped around a lot. And like she's her life growing up is based on images she's seen on Earth. It's very innocent. She's not tainted. She hasn't seen the spaghetti. She's very innocent. She hasn't seen the spaghettification or anything. So for her, the version of going, she wants to go into this black hole because like we don't know what's on the other side kind of thing. It's like a chance to take a chance. Like they don't have to be stuck on this. So
she doesn't get to go to prom, so you might as well do the black hole thing,
And
but
like I don't
that's
think
why I thought she was so. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Well, I don't think that's why like he doesn't tell his. I think that's why he tells his daughter like let's do it, not to reveal certain things to her because like we're both gonna die anyway. But like if you can die with hope that like and I love that they don't show what happens at the end because maybe they made it through. Like maybe they probably didn't, but maybe they did, and like that little bit of hope.
It's a black hole.
Right, exactly.
Well, but it's a
like,
movie,
throughout this entire
so
they're
right. But like just
they
like
played
throughout
with that a little.
This,
I don't know,
this like super bleak movie where like constantly just like depressing. The slightest bit of like innocence and hope within that the daughter was like just a little slight like breath of fresh air. It doesn't save the movie, but it's unfortunate that the journey to get to that was like
just a little.
I don't know. For me, like that's why I feel like she just did. I feel like she just did. I just feel like she didn't exist. I feel like she was just such a positive child in this like hopeless type of scenario. Like, and obviously he's not like a hyper go like happy guy and have he's not like we really don't see him happy at all. Like even when he has a child, he's not happy. We don't see anything. So for me to believe that he just somehow raised this child into like preteenness and she's just so nice and positive when I feel like any other child who has to like see images of Earth and will never be able to touch that will like born in me some type of
like a flower in the concrete type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
Like it makes sense that she would not take on his demeanor. You know what I mean? I
don't need her to take on his. I don't need her to take on his demeanor, but I just don't feel like she would be that positive. Is what I'm saying. I felt like there would still be some.
What if you have nothing else? I mean, if you have nothing else, why not be positive?
But if you have nothing else, why not be angry as well? I feel like you can have.
She doesn't know that. She's never been taught anger like that because he didn't flip out in front of her.
But nobody teaches you happiness either. Like you see some things, you see
then
things.
Then it is the flower in the concrete. She's just a positive person.
I know. I just don't believe it. I'm kind of swayed a little bit by your theory because I actually kind of like it. I'm just saying, like, I actually kind of like if she doesn't exist because he's sort of taking care of what last of, because that's technically like literally his humanity, like is left. It like that's a part of him that he's trying to take care of by the end, and like,
right.
He's gonna go out
because when all else, like Snippy said, when all else is lost, right? You either fill yourself with some type of false hope, some type of happiness, some type of something. And if he can't physically do that, why not manifest my kid that can do it for me? And because from what it seemed like, because
you guys are gonna make me watch this movie again. Sorry,
because I'm thinking about it. Because I'm thinking of it. Ray said never again. Because I'm thinking of it like this, right? When instead of killing that woman, couldn't Mia Goth just got on a ship with her? Right.
I don't think she killed her.
That was so weird.
Right. No, she killed her. She was the body that was he had laying up against the wall in the suit. She killed her. She bashed her in the head with a shovel. She killed her. So
but they are killers. I don't know.
But they are.
She killed her, took the suit, and got in the ship.
So my thing is the ship big enough for two people? Because if that's the case, then she could have just gotten the ship with her.
Well, you saw how she was laid out. I mean, there was a lot of room in there.
But that's why I don't think
she got in.
We gotta call up Leo DiCaprio, man, because it's the same situation. There was more room in that ship, I swear.
Cameron.
But I'm just saying though, but for me, that makes this movie slightly digestible to kind of have like a psychological element to it that she just didn't exist, and she was like, "This is the because my thing is this: why couldn't you tell her that she had hair like her mother? Why couldn't you tell her that, like, you don't have to say that, like, your mama was cause she already read about everybody on the thing. You didn't even have to tell her what her mother's name was. All she asked was, is my hair like her? Do I look like her? Like, why couldn't you physically say it? Like, and she's like, you ignore my questions.
He didn't want her to fixate on it.
It's just little things. Right. It's just like little things that I'm just like, she ain't exist. She existed to.
I think
to
the
keep
purpose
him
of the film is, and it's as disgusting as it is, I think the whole concept of the film is, what would you do to propagate the species? And if she's not real, then we lose that. That doesn't exist as the end of the film. So that's why I don't believe.
I'm not saying that she wasn't real. I don't think she was real into her preteen years. She was a real baby.
No, I know, but I'm saying the preteen, the adolescent version of the daughter, I think is real because you won't get that statement in the end. That's just
I mean, they both died, so you're not propagating nothing. But that's just
but they both die because he chooses to die instead of propagate the species.
I have another wild.
Do you think that's what the ending was going towards? Like, I guess I
don't. They kept making it seem that.
I didn't see
the
that
whole
either.
movie is about sexuality.
I see weird
taboo sexuality.
That I was feeling weird that they would try and do that just for the. How do I say this? Not for the story, but for the depiction, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think anything in the story made me think that it was heading towards him having sex with her. I was afraid of that too. I feel like the movie was the plot was lost long before that could end up happening just for the
shock value,
like the shock value.
Yeah,
not because it leads towards part of what the movie was trying to say. Like, I feel like when you have a movie, I don't know, because I guess my personal preference is a movie that's written to say something, right? Sure. Like, it's very easy to have a movie that's very explicit in a lot of ways, and still have a message. Like, both Schindler's List and Amistad, for very different reasons, are very explicit in the treatment of humans, right? Both of them, or at least in, I believe Amistad, it's been a very long time, but there's imagery of people being treated a certain way, right?
It's
but
brutal.
Not for the shock value of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
but because it's a communication that this event took place, this is the part of
this
the
is
story
what these people went through.
Exactly. And it doesn't feel like this feels like a movie that's not doing that.
Yeah. I feel like the sex part of it, the propagating the species, I really feel like that was like something that's in it, but I don't think that's the whole of the film. I really think the whole of the film is like just the human psyche and what do humans do when they're isolated and they're at their at their lowest. And mind you got murderers as well, right? So so at the end I feel like personally, because I'm gonna stay on the topic that he killed her when she was a baby, like I'm gonna stay on that forever because it makes the film interesting to me. But I would assume that like because I come on Ty, because I would assume that like if I was a parent and I was on this ship and things like this, I wouldn't want my kid to turn out how I'm about to turn out and how all these people previously turned out, right? So like I would probably, like the doctor did before, she killed her family, right? So for me, it will, and when Mia Goth was talking to her about it, she got emotional about it. So part of me is like, are you trying to recreate your family in some type of way? Like, are you trying to like right a wrong that you did, which is why you're so focused on impregnating these women and making these kids come to term so you can like forgive yourself in a sense, like your own kind of like repentance, or like in a sense. So like when you because like think about it, when she finally did that, when that baby was finally born, she killed herself. She wasn't dying. She got hurt, yes, but that baby came to turn, and she was like, that baby is strong, and she outed herself because that's all she wanted to do was kind of like bring another child into this world, like how she took him out. So for me, he killed his child so that she wouldn't become what all of them on this ship has become. And then at the end, her being a teen is his brain working through what he needs to do next, because that place was destroyed. He had on tattered clothes, but she didn't. Like his clothes was destroyed, but like her kind of wasn't.
He wasn't wearing their clothes. Like, so those were clothes that probably wouldn't have fit him. So her statue was way smaller than. So those were the smaller person's clothes.
But here's my thing though: if I'm on a ship, I don't care about the clothes, if the clothes fit or not.
Like, I don't think they would have even fit him. Like she was that much smaller.
Like that.
Like the smaller women's clothes, which wouldn't have been used,
which was been used for things like that. But I'm just saying that, like, to me, it just seems like he killed her to save her, and then at the end, she pretty much gave him the same, like the figment of her gave him that same out. So like, let's go try it out. Let's go do it. And
we need to rate this film because we have spent quite a bit of time on it. But I do want to say one more thing, and it is to the explicit nature to everything in the film and how it relates to the non-explicit ending. We see explicit shit all the way through the film because it sets up the expectation that when it comes down to it, he'll do something explicit or do the thing we don't want him to do. It's designed to get your brain going that direction so that you're like, oh, is he going to do this? And then he chooses not to. He does the right thing. And again, it's a terrible moral question. It's a strange film to talk about this subject, but again, if it comes down to there are a couple, 3-4 of us left on the planet, what do we do to propagate?
As long as you're not my sibling or my child or somebody that I'm blood related to, it's a whole different story. If you're blood related to you, then we're just gonna die here as family.
And that's what he did. He just said,
at the end of the world to do that. I couldn't even do that towards the end. I couldn't.
Yeah, and I think that's what the movie is exploring is that anybody with even any shred of humanity would be like, let's go ride this black hole.
That's why I said, like, I think I like this film to a certain extent in the fact that, like, they tried to ask this really tough moral question. Unfortunately, I don't think the movie does it, but it tried. Like,
yeah, they just went about it the wrong way. They didn't, But let's rate.
Let's definitely rate. Tyler, let's start with you. We did start with you for the film, so let's start there.
I'm gonna give it a low, a nice solid 5 because I'm still unsure of like how I feel about the whole. It's a lot to like process, and I only just watched it today, so
a 5.
I'm gonna give it a 5.
I have
5 baby.
Oh, 5 babies! Wow. Okay. Ray, I assume it's a 1, but let's hear it from Ray.
Might be a 0 for Ray. It might be a -1.
Give it a black hole. 0.
Okay, so I'll rate the space imagery. I like as they were getting further out into the solar system, how they showed that was really pretty. And then I liked the aeroponics bay. I thought that was beautiful. So I'll give it 2.
A 2,
one
okay.
For each of those.
So
I respect that
that's
heavily.
Good. I mean, that's better than the 1.
I'm surprised it's even a 2. I feel like that's high for Ray. I feel like that's high. Like you gave it a 2. That's high life for sure. I
should deduct 1 for the sexual assault and 1 for
for sure, and then it's 0.
Crotch. We're back to 0. You're right.
Yeah, it's 0. I know 0.
0.
It's 0.
-1 for the rape.
Come on. I think I'm gonna give it a 1, and that's only because I enjoyed my theory about it. So
I appreciate.
Yeah, I do. I actually enjoyed your
perspective. I think it does give some, because I've seen other movies where people have killed their children by out of what they considered mercy or by accident. And it's not unlike a Sixth Sense kind of thing, where it's like you're not really supposed to know whether he's dead or alive kind of thing. So it's an interesting theory. It's more interesting than the movie, but it's a good theory.
Yeah, that's just my theory. So I'll give it a 1 for my theory.
I have one more quick theory, but if we have time, I'll say it. But go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna give this movie. What did I give it on Letterboxd?
You gave it 3.
I gave it a 3. So I think I gave it a 3. I think I was being generous. It's somewhere in the 5-6 range. I think the moral and the subject matter is interesting, and I think that's what's driven the conversation more than anything, is the subject matter. And I think the aesthetics, I did like that this felt like almost like a John Carpenter 70s film, but with highbrow rather than Carpenter. No offense, John, but you know, you're not always highbrow.
I'll do a 1.5. I'll do a 1.5.
1.5. But I don't know. If 5,
just for the imagery and like the cinematography and things like that, I'll give it a 1.5 for that. I have to bring that into the equation, because that's something that I did actually like about this film. It's like the colors and how the set looks and all that type of stuff. So.
Let's hear Tyler's super quick 30-second theory, and then we will move on.
Okay. All I was gonna say is, what if the ship actually represents the movie, right? And Robert Pattinson goes out, he's like, yeah, fuck this movie, I'm going out with my humanity, and that's why he goes into the black hole, and that's what the whole movie is about. The ship is the movie. You hate it, and it has terrible things in it.
You want it to end, and it ends in a black hole.
Kill yourself, then to be there. I want to say that black hole was beautiful, though.
Yeah,
she was like, it looked like a crocodile eye. I was like, that was beautiful. That was
the best part.
I'll take that as a picture on my wall, man. That was like very
nice. So we are going to move on.
That's it.
We are going to move on. I like your theory. We're going to move on to Goodtime, which is the next Robert Pattinson film. So we're just Pattinsoning all over season 3 here.
Whoa.
Right. Why don't we go with Ray on this one? What did you think of Goodtime?
So that was the one I watched today.
Okay.
Did you have a good time? Yeah, that's what we're asking.
No, she did not.
No.
Yeah.
Where do I start? I don't like when they use either real actors who are mentally handicapped, or they portray people who are mentally handicapped in this way. Because, and that's not to say that real people who are down and out like this, I'm sure Connie really loved him, but you also are using him to rob a bank.
Because you know that's the only person that's going to listen to you and do what you say do.
And then once he ends up going to jail, he gets caught. I'm like, he left him. Bro was gone.
No, he was jettisoned. He
gone.
He was gone. Didn't even look back.
I appreciated the idea of him trying to break him out, but you were doing zero due diligence to make sure that was actually him. And it just felt like another one of those, like, I get a kind of like high action. You know what I mean? Like we're moving quick. Like I like an action flick, but it just felt like the brother was a plot point. And I don't think for this movie he needed to be mentally handicapped. Like
it didn't do anything for the film.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it just feels like I don't
You're
know.
doing this just to do it. You're doing it just for
the film
diversity
made
sake.
it correct. It felt like a just because kind of thing. I don't feel like it aids in a positive depiction of people who are handicapped in this way. Robert Pattinson, like my thing, like what I can say is he was doing his thing, but like okay, in a movie that I don't it was hard for me, man. And here's where I really knew that I was just like, this is a no for me. Because when he went to the lady's house after they got off of the handicap transport, that he went to her house and her granddaughter was there, and I'm like, this is clearly a child. Like this was obviously not an older teenager or even somebody that was in like college. When he kissed her, bro, I was sick to my stomach. I was like, that is a little girl. Why are we doing this?
He knew it was a little girl.
Made a point,
and he was using that as a means to an end.
Correct. He knew she was a little girl. He didn't want her to see him on the news. And then when they got to the amusement park and she was trying to get out so that they didn't see her sitting in the car, and they asked her how old she was, and I was like, they didn't say it. I knew she was young, but I'm like, now we got this grown man kissing a child. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't feel like how that benefits the story for her to be that young, only for the sake of her being able to get out of jail or not be arrested without parental consent or whatever the kind of deviation in that point of the story is. Like, oh well, she's a kid, she won't go to jail.
I assume they only did it because like a kid doesn't question, and she already had issues with her grandmother. So and she's dealing with drug dealers. So it's like, would it be surprising that she would let this grown person kiss her? No, it wouldn't be surprising. So
and would it be surprising that this piece of shit would also use her essentially to do what he needed
to raise point? It's a scene that didn't even have to be in there.
It really did.
This girl didn't add any value. He could have took that car without her being there. Like this lady allowed this boy to be in her house.
She could have said, "Here's my cell phone. I'm gonna go to bed. When your mom gets off of work, she can come here and pick you up, and you guys are good."
I think it shows the character that we're dealing with. All of this whole movie is about him. Everything that happens is about what we see him as.
And I hate it.
It may be, but we don't. I mean, is the actress underage? Because I don't think she is underage.
I think at that time she might have been like 18. Because she's 19 now. Like in 2017, she was 19. When this movie came out, she was 19. So usually it takes like a year for these things. Like they start maybe a year previous. So she was like 18 when they were filming. When it came out, she was 19. She was 19 in 2017.
Okay.
Yuck.
What I'm saying, so I assume the actress. I assume the actress is 18. So I would hope that she's 18. If she's not, that's a whole nother thing that we can have a long conversation about, because that's not okay. But if she is 18 and we're depicting a shitty character, him doing something like kissing a 16-year-old while it's awful, we're supposed to feel like it's awful because we're not rooting for this guy. This guy is not the hero.
I mean, I'm not rooting for him, but at the very least, I'm assuming that they're not depicting a pedophile. I'm like, it's unnecessary. Him being shitty and kissing her against her without her consent. The non-consent can be the part that makes him shitty, not that he's kissing a child without her consent. I think it's possible to.
She could have punched him and ran to her room. You know what I mean? Like correct. You took her to her room and continued
Correct.
Where there is no TV. You could have kissed her to distract her, took her to her room and be like, I'll be right back. I go check on my brother. Like, it didn't have to continue past the distraction part. I get what you're saying, right? I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I could go into heavy detail, but I won't.
It's fair. It's fair. I like to hear what I'm just giving a kind of a different take on it. And
I mean, like, they went to the thing and then they almost beat the security guard to death, and then he poured liquor down his throat. And
it was acid, actually.
It was acid.
That's why he was talking. He was talking gibberish because he was fucked up. Like
he was on acid.
So the whole, I think that like each thing that Connie does is the next awful thing. So like that's why I feel like the part with the girl is a part of it. Like it's kind of. Like
the other guy who had just gotten out of prison was the one that poured the acid down his throat. I thought it was liquor, but
my thing was like, you could have put a drop. I was like, why did you give him so much? You're trying to kill.
Because then you can take his place as the security guard, and there's no chance of him telling somebody.
No. But what I'm saying is, it's acid, right? What they gave him, how much he gave him, could have just like killed him.
It wouldn't kill him, but it would ruin his brain forever.
I felt like it didn't have to be that much. Like if I could take a drop of acid,
I don't know. So like
I could take a sip. I'm just saying it was a.
These are terrible people. It was a lot. And the fact that they were doing terrible
not the
things.
Smartest people, too.
Right?
Yeah,
like I don't know. So I don't care if it was a drop or not. Like that's awful for the person, and I feel bad for everybody that comes in contact with Connie. Like the dude is a toxic piece of garbage across the board, and
he's also just a user. He's just a user,
extreme user. So if you haven't seen Uncut Gems, and I know that you guys, I know Tyler has, but I know the two of you haven't seen Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems and the Safdie brothers in general, they go for this like really raw, like almost like an exposed nerve kind of feeling in their films, and
it's a no for me,
and that's fair. But I think that part of it is that they're trying to show kind of East Coast life in a very raw, real way. That's what I get from their films. And there are people like Connie that just are all over this world. And the more we study them and look at their case studies or character studies, the more we can identify them in the real world. And I think there's a benefit to these kinds of human studies.
I appreciate how nice you were being. And I'm not saying that to be like a jerk. I'm saying that this movie is not a case study. I understand what you're saying. There is movies like that. Absolutely. There are movies like that speak to the nature of someone. When it's about their psychology, that makes sense. This does not feel like that.
I've known guys like Connie, so I guess for me,
it hit
a little hard.
From my hometown, I know 4 guys like this dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm from the hood in Mansfield, and there's no people there. The streets connected to my grandma's, from like the house where my grandmother lived since 1966. That's a house basically I was raised in. In her backyard is a halfway house. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like there are these dudes, there are these types of dudes everywhere. The issue is, I think if this movie was trying to communicate, like you said, this raw nerve, this kind of expose type thing, this is like, this person is a bad seed, that no matter what they do, they're a user, they're a taker. I don't feel like this movie said that. It felt like it was a day in the life, which is not a heed this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this is the thing you're looking for, it's like this type of person, look out for them kind of thing. It was like, this guy is just this guy.
Okay. No, that's fair. And I can see what you're saying. Totally. Let's get the other half of the panel's take, because Ray and I can definitely keep going, I think. Tyler, what did you think of Good Time?
I will say I do like Uncut Gems a little bit more, but
I mean, I'm also a sucker for like the synthesizers and the aesthetic, neon, neon drenched and colorful. A little distracted. This was my second time watching it. Completely different perspective now that like Ray has like introduced some new things I haven't, because the people, definitely the people I watched, we were like, I think when we watched it when it first came out, we're like, yeah, this movie fucking rocks. Like, it's fucking action. It's like it's like Breaking Bad. Like, this Walter White dude, like, we hate him, and there's no way he's gonna have a good ending. Like, yeah. So I mean, like, hearing your guys, perspectives on it now, I definitely agree on like those things, and I think I also don't know if I've come to a place, because like while I was on TikTok, I would talk about certain things too, but like even like now it's like it's interesting to hear these perspectives and to like like how do we what would be a good example of like trying to depict something like that, and I think and not to say like this, that's how I feel about like this movie. Like, I don't think it's like they did it wrong necessarily. I mean, that's depends on the person, but like
right.
I'm glad that they tried to do it, because now we can kind of say like, well, maybe this is not the best way to do that. Like, how do we? It's like raised a lot of questions in my head. Like, how do we depict this sort of thing? And like, how do we depict an awful person doing awful things? Like, do we even do that? And like, I don't know if like this movie's necessarily trying to say anything necessarily, or we're just it might just be a character-driven movie where we're kind of just seeing this awful dude doing completely terrible things up until the end, and then he doesn't, But yeah, I don't know if that like sums up how I felt about it. I felt like it was a me trying to like piece together my thoughts right now. I have no idea.
I love it.
On the fly. On the fly. Okay. How about you, La? What did you think of Good Time?
It was a bad time, man. I just wanted to say that because Good Time. I just thought it was great. But I will say, again, this is a very nice. A24 has their aesthetics. They love their aesthetics in their film. This film does have its own aesthetic. Like, it sets its own tone, which I think for any film, good or bad, that's a good thing to do, is to strike your own tone. I feel Ray on the sense of he did not the director, I know this it's a duo, but the one that was like in the film playing the brother, I felt like he didn't need to be developmentally challenged. And if that was such a thing that you wanted for that film, you could have actually hired a developmentally challenged actor, because they do exist, right?
For sure.
To add that authenticity to it, right? And I'm not saying that there aren't actors that could probably portray it well, because like, look at my man from I Am Sam, look at Sean Penn, like look at Leonardo DiCaprio even did a decent job from people that I have seen with developmental issues. They like immerse themselves in it. So I'm not saying it, but in this one, it felt like it was something they used to get people to watch this film. It didn't feel like it was something that needed to be in this film. I will say the character of Connie, to me, is interesting for the simple fact that you can see how magnetic of a person that he is, right? He gets people to follow him. His brother aside, because it's his brother and his brother is challenged. He's going to listen to everything he's saying. He's going to do these things. But if you
even then, he was only half listening sometimes. He wasn't always 100% with Connie.
He wasn't always 100% listening, right? So, but he always listened to him, like no matter what. He's like, do it. How did you feel? Like, he'll pump him up so he could feel good about, use him and feel good about himself. But if you look at the other people that Connie has come in contact with, he can play the game. He can con. His name is Connie. He can con, and he can use, and he can. I knew Ty would like that one.
Liar.
He has a really high charisma, like really high.
He does. Yeah. And that just shows that he could be anything that he wants, but he chooses the easy way out because he's not willing to put the effort forward. Because honestly, he could possibly be like that lady was at the end that had all those students, and he could probably be one of those students, because one of those teachers, because you essentially do take care of your brother. You do make sure that you could calm him down and make sure that you could get him to focus and things like that, which means you could probably do that with other people. I won't say that I 100% enjoyed this film, but I won't say I 100% didn't. I'm like somewhere in the middle, because I feel like there were some spots, some issues that like you probably could have cut that short or removed it. Like the whole 16-year-old, what's the point of that? Like she could have been 22 with a 16-year-old mentality. You know what I mean? Like she could have, if you wanted to do something like that, right? Or it couldn't have been no kid at all. Like it didn't even have to be an actor for that part. He could have just been in that house. The moment he saw the newsreel, he could have got freaked out about it. Took his brother, stole a car, however it is. But we also see that when he meets somebody that's just as powerful as he is, which that other guy was, because that other guy called him on his bullshit, it makes sense why he's fighting so hard to get Connie back, because Connie listens. I mean, Connie, his brother Nicholas back, because his brother listens without any like arguments or anything like that. Like, and that's what he wants. He wants nobody to oppress him or push him back in any way. So for me, that's the character study of it all is interesting to me. Like taking his character and breaking it down is very interesting to me. How they laid this out in this film, it could have been touched up in a few ways for me personally, but overall, I feel like it's better than High Life because it's literally grounded. It's literally more grounded,
and it's a linear story.
And it's a linear story, right? And it's, even though it has its ups and its downs and its highs and its lows and everything like that, but let's just call it spade a spade. If he didn't get caught, he would have never took the fall for his brother. He only took the fall for his brother because he got caught. Because if we being honest, if you really loved your brother and you know your brother didn't have anything to do with that, instead of you trying to break him out, you'd have went confessed immediately and got your brother out of there and went and did your time. But
that's what I mean. Like that was the only, like, you want this guy to get, like, you're gonna get caught, dude. And like that's the only way out. You have to get caught. Like you're not a good person. Like,
right. That's very much a Walter White kind of approach. I think that while I 100% agree with, if you're going to have a disabled character, please use a disabled actor. Like there's no reason not to do that. That aside, I think that the character of Nick is important to this story because I think ultimately it is his story. We get to see very little of him, but this story of how Connie gets caught and taken the fuck away forever is what is Nicholas's redemption. He gets away from his brother finally, actually gets to unlock and become a real person with people who are there to trustworthy with people. Like that whole credit scene, like when he's finally letting go and becoming a part of that group, I was moved by that because I felt like Connie is no longer in the way. Connie is out of here, and Nicholas actually gets to
Connie was holding
do
him
something.
back. Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that this story is about how this was a terrible thing, but it ultimately was the best thing for, like, it helped him become a different person and get away from his brother. That's just me, I guess. But I did enjoy that.
No,
aspect.
It's just not you, because I mean, from my perspective, it's not just you, because the character of Nick is an important character. I just personally don't think he needed to be developmentally challenged. He could have been a person who just was so devoted to his brother that he pushed his own life aside, and that once his brother got, like, in prison, now he can start doing the things that he's been wanting to do, but his brother has been taking him away from. To me, that's the same exact story without him being developmentally challenged.
I think the aspect and that's fair. I think the aspect of the fact that Nick didn't talk really at all, and there were some great moments where you just are focused on him and there's zooming out. And I think there's something about just sitting in the moment with him where you're starting to wonder what is on his mind, what is he feeling, what is he thinking, almost like the doctors were, trying to figure out what was going on in his head. We get to sit with him and feel that in the way they shot this. So I don't know. Yes, I totally understand what you're saying. The story could have gone with just a brother who was pushed around or smaller or 100 other things. But I think that, I don't know. For me, I don't know. I enjoyed the Nick character.
I feel like you can have those traits. I feel like you can have those traits without him being developmentally challenged. Right?
Sure.
Without his voice having to change, and him being like, well, don't you do, like, all that type of stuff. You can have those traits in a person that's not developmentally challenged if you couldn't find a developmentally challenged actor. Because to me, it could still play the same way. And for me, in this film in particular, I don't like films that did like how High Life did, showed us, like, jumped us in the middle and then went back and showed us like flashbacks.
Right.
Movies like that kind of get on my nerves sometimes. But for me, this film personally could have benefited from that.
From a little bit of that.
If you would have showed us a little bit more of the relationship between these two brothers, it would have just added a little bit more depth to not only Connie's character, even though he's still trash, you still need to get rid of him, but it also would have added some depth to Nick's character, because we only see him like 3 times on screen.
Correct.
And even though I was still connected, like that ending scene was to me a powerful scene. I definitely agree with you on that. It's definitely a powerful scene, because you see him standing there not wanting to participate, and then he's like,
I can. Connie's not here to stop me.
Right, I can, because I feel like that's what he was waiting for. He was waiting for his brother to bust through, to be like, nah, come on, we going. And when he didn't get that, and he sees everybody's participating, and also he sees people like himself, that is a powerful scene.
Right. Well, also the things that he started walking for were all the things that Connie was doing to him, right? But he started walking
and like she said, it's your truth. If you don't want nobody to know, if you want to keep it a secret, you ain't got to move. And sometimes when you could tell he wanted to move, he didn't move. So I agree, that scene is like super powerful. I still feel like he didn't have to be developmentally challenged for that scene to happen. If they couldn't find an actor for that, I know I'm still harping on that.
No, you're good.
But I still feel like
I totally agree with that.
I still feel like that could still happen with a brother or a sister that's like, maybe they're very quiet, maybe they don't like to talk, maybe because Connie is such a big personality, they feel like they have to lower themselves for him, and all they can do is follow. To me, that's the same traits without you taking it to another level that you didn't have to take it to.
I agree with you. And I think not agreeing with their choice, but I'm sure the choice was to do that, to communicate very quickly that he's trying to, quote unquote, look out for his brother, right? And take care of him. Obviously, he, has some developmental, issues, and he's trying to take care of him, but really, he's not really looking out for him and all of that
at
stuff.
all.
I also think they could have had more scenes, but this is why I'm not a fan of whenever directors are in their own movies, because that's a problem. That's already a problem.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Benny is the director of this film, and he is Nick. So he was in it very little. He was directing his brother through at least, I don't know, a third of the film.
Right.
Did anybody else think that?
Feels like that's why he wasn't in it that much either, because he was portraying a developmentally challenged person, and I think he wanted to limit his screen time so that you couldn't really pick apart what he was doing. It was a little here, because he barely spoke, but he was very quiet.
New for them too.
Because I feel like he would be he would get more criticized because of it. Yeah. If he was there if he was on screen longer, portraying that character.
They haven't done a ton of film as directors, so
no, I looked it up. No, they haven't.
And so to me, this is the movie that got them Uncut Gems. This is the movie that got Adam Sandler to say, "Sure, I'll make a movie with you guys." And they learned. You can tell they learned from this movie, because if you watch Uncut Gems, you can see where they took that same raw vein and shoved it right into another movie. And I think if you didn't like the concepts or some of the choices they made in this film, Ray, that there aren't those choices made in Uncut Gems. They avoid those questionable choices.
Plus, Uncut Gems was executive produced by Scorsese, so I'm pretty sure he had a couple tidbits to say
possibly
about a film that got his name on it. You know what I mean?
I think one of the Safdie brothers is in it, but only a little bit. It's not. He's like a side character and a little nothing on the side. So Ray, since we're going to run out of time if we don't want to do, because we still want to cover Lady Bird, what would you rate this film?
Maybe a 3.
Okay.
I think that significant choices would have made this a much better movie, because it does have an ending that really highlights the one character that was worthy of redemption. But there were choices in between that could have been better. So
all right, no, totally fair. As always with the Real Study, we want to hear everybody's the realest of your thoughts. Going in the same order that we've been going in. Tyler, what do you rate Goodtime?
I think I'm gonna give it a 7. I still think it's a decent debut. Of course, I acknowledge all of the questionable choices that they've made, but as a whole film, and the aesthetics, the look of it, just overall debut, I think it's about a 7.
Good freshman film, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's fair. How about you, La?
Mm-hmm. I'll give it a 6, simply because there are artistic things about it that I enjoy. It's not a horrible story, but it's a story that could have benefited from more story.
Right.
And it's something I'll never watch again. So usually 6 and down for me is I'm never partaking in this film again. But like I said, if they could have just did like a couple of flashbacks and maybe their childhood, maybe seeing Connie, why Connie became this way, even though you don't have to. I just personally think it would have benefited from just getting to know these characters a little bit more.
For sure.
I think getting to know Nick, maybe, but getting to know Connie.
Unfortunately, when you have a dynamic like that, it usually, in even a minuscule way, starts out with a good intention, because clearly their grandmother was very demeaning to them, and that's why neither of them liked or wanted to be with her. She was mean to him, and that's because when he was talking to the doctor at the beginning and he said he threw the pot at her because she was being mean to him, like kind of that, like, he's taking care of him and protecting him, but sometimes that bastardizes over time, and that's where you end up in this part where he's breaking into his session. He doesn't want him to get help, because if he gets help, he gets free. And so seeing the beginning of their story even a little bit definitely would have
helped. Yeah. Because maybe Connie feel old. Maybe he's felt old to this. Like, I've been taking care of you your whole life. Anytime you mess up, I'm there to pick up after you.
So now it's time you help me.
Right. So now it's time for you to help me. Right. And to me, that already, us having that conversation already was like, ooh.
But I didn't feel that from Connie. He was proud of his brother. He was like, so yeah, it would have been interesting if they had done that. It would have been maybe a little bit more justified. This is Connie. But again, I think he's a piece of shit. We're not supposed to feel justified.
No. I don't think it would justify him. It would just explain him more.
No, I just meant you can understand a person's motives is what I mean. You could understand his motives for doing it. While he's doing it because he wants to just steal money. And he's obviously thought about all the like layers of stealing the money, because he dressed them into multiple layers. Had certain places they were already ready to hide. But mind
you, he dressed them as black men. I was like,
that I thought was seriously fucked up.
I was like, wow. And you still got caught, but still, I was like, wow. Okay, black man mask. I said, all right.
I'm going to personally give this a 7 or an 8, and I think that the conversation has brought it closer to a 7, while it was an 8 when I rated it on my own. But that's one of the things I absolutely love about this panel, is that we kind of come to a closer consensus. Like, we kind of, those numbers kind of shore up one way or another to some degree when we talk about these films. And I
will say, I was at about an 8 too, and then I brought it back.
Yeah. And because because you guys have me thinking of things that I'm not thinking of when I watch the film. I turn this on, and it's a story about a white guy doing white guy things, and
white guy,
you know what I mean? And I get to the end of the movie and I'm like, white guy got caught, but at least it's got a solid ending. So like, it's like 8, but then you make me think about it. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, maybe I need to check myself,
I give this a lower score than 3, because now I'm mad, because all the people he did wrong in this movie were all black.
Or people of color, because the lady that he stole their car, she was an Asian lady.
I was not prepared for the N-word drop. I was like, well, let me tell you right now, I had to restart my Roku because it wouldn't let me rewind. I was like, I know he did not walk in this apartment.
Did he?
Yes.
He did?
I did not see that.
Who was coming to help him sell the acid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When he walked in, he called him the N-word. I was like, ain't no way. Absolutely. I was
the big white guy.
I'm gonna have to go back to that.
Walked in.
Oh no.
And just dropped that.
Okay. Got out of prison, called him the N-word, and I was like,
hey yo.
I know good and well. Called him the N-word.
I didn't even hear that.
I didn't either.
Black. The lady who helped him and the little girl were black.
Black, guard was black.
What's really going? It's a 0.
Oop, she changed it for herself. She took it away.
It's a 0.
Honestly, I'm gonna give it a 2 now. I'm gonna have to, because I didn't even like, because honestly, I didn't even really catch that pretty much all of the background players are black people and they all got disrespected. 100%. And I didn't even hear the N-word part. I'm gonna have to go back and just go look at that. Not even make sure, but I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back and do it because I didn't even hear that. We're gonna put that as a 2. I'm gonna put that as a 2. Because dang, I'm gonna put that as a 2.
Calling another white
man.
Oh no, that's unfortunately
just because y'all was in jail, that don't mean nothing. No, that is real, because
it's very real.
Because 9 times out of 10 in jail, they'll hang around black people for like protection, and so once you're in that little crew,
try the army. So in the army,
that's
white guys will do that to white guys and think that it's okay. Like I was around plenty of guys that I was like, you can stop now. But they wouldn't.
I'm gonna bring that down to it too.
Terrible.
But we should get to Lady Bird though. We only got like
we only have 15 minutes. How did we do that? This is ridiculous.
Not for Greta Gerwig. Greta deserves more than
she does deserve more. Now, well,
does she though? No, I'm just
getting down on the Greta. All right.
Maybe for Barbie.
But here's my thing though. This is the only reason I said that. I don't understand the hype about Greta Gerwig. I really do not.
Oh, right. Like how they're, she's like of our time, like one of the.
I guess. And like, I'm not saying she's a bad director, but I feel like people.
Yet.
And I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like when people say her name, they make it sound like it's just it's weight behind it, but I'm not seeing the load. Right. Like I'm not seeing what everybody else is seeing. And this is no offense to you, Sniddy. I know you like her work, but I'm just purposely kind of like
out. But what I've seen so far, I'm only mildly impressed with. If not,
well, I don't. I just don't think she has enough to like say certain.
Sure, no, I understand.
Right?
She's still obviously very close to still the beginning of her career, and any director in the beginning of their career is going to make different choices before they find their line of kind of decision making. I get that. I mean, I haven't seen the Barbie movie yet. I mean, maybe that's her masterpiece, her opus. Like, I don't know.
But that depends on who you are. But yeah, I think that just. So let's start with Lady Bird. Let's do what we can. If we feel like we don't get enough time, we can always. I mean, we've got plenty of time on each show because there's not enough movies right now. We're running out of flicks to review. Ultimately,
no, for sure.
We really are
reviewing YouTube like
shorts. Yeah, we could do shorts. We can do. Yeah, there are definitely some things out there. Law, what did you think? Oh, wow, Law.
You're right.
What did you think of Lady Bird?
Lady Bird kind of gave me Booksmart vibes. If you've seen Booksmart. That's another Beanie Feldstein film, but it kind of gave me Booksmart vibes.
And another A24. Oh wait, no, it's not A24. No, sorry.
No, I don't think that's A24. But I didn't have a problem with this. It had a solid premise. I do feel like everybody looked like they was like 25. I didn't really clock anybody being like 17, 18. I was like, y'all grown as hell on this set. I was like, all of y'all are adults, like hella adults playing kids. And I was just kind of like, okay.
I'd prefer that. That's the way it should be. If we're going to do it, just let people be adults while they portray the children. Don't want kids.
I mean, in this, for me, but for me, in this film in particular, they did nothing that was like overtly anything. You could have actually had kids play these roles. Like, I'm just saying, because it wasn't anything that like a teenager hasn't done already, like kissing and being in like it was. But I digress. I thought Saoirse did really good. I like the fact that it really did portray like a young woman coming into herself, trying to figure herself out. And as a person who in my teenage years butted heads with her mom a lot because we are very similar, this was very much like oh yeah, this is kind of me a little bit. I'm her 2.0 and she doesn't know, you don't know how to deal with yourself for the most part. So like, and so if yourself is your child, like you really don't know. And those performances were really good. Laurie Metcalf deserves all of the awards and things that she can get her hands on. I believe she deserves more than what she already has. Like she deserves everything. She's an underrated dramatic actress. I mean, heavily underrated dramatic actress. And I think everybody played their part. I like the fact that Miguel was adopted, obviously, but we never talked about that. He was just their son. That is my brother. Whoop-de-whoop. I was like, come on, Cinderella. This is what this is. And I meant the Barbie version. I mean, the Brandy version. I enjoyed it. It felt like a lived-in family. It felt like real moments. Yeah. This to me might have was the most clear-cut, grounded film of all three of these, even though they all dealt in their own bit of sadness. But yeah, I enjoy it, Lady Bird. And only thing I wish Beanie had more screen time. I like her as an actress. I thought I would have wanted a little bit more screen time, but I also like that they didn't really overly do my best friend got new best friends and she doesn't like me anymore. They didn't drill that in the head. It was like, okay, my friend made a mistake. She came back. We good. We go to prom together. I just thought it was I thought it was good.
That was sweet. It was tender. Yeah. How about you, Ray? Lady Bird.
I didn't know what to expect because I only heard people say the name, but not why it was getting so much kind of like people were like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like people like it's like one of those kind of movies that people are like fanning over. I think this one, like you said, had a lot more definitiveness. Like it knew what it was trying to say.
Yep.
And I think each of the characters did what they were supposed to do in their kind of archetype. I had a really hard time with her mom because I just never feel like children should have to bear the emotional responsibility in the relationship. That pisses me off a lot.
Come on.
And she was clearly doing all of the heavy lifting. So to the point where like at the end when she like completely stopped talking to her, like yes, she was writing the letters and I appreciate her dad for being that stopgap, but you could tell that she was such a live wire that nobody wanted to really make her mad because she was much worse when she was upset. Like she was a pill, but she was also really mean. Like
for sure.
Good description though. She was a pill.
Her a compliment.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Like she had these dresses and like I appreciated the line when she's like, what if this is the best version of me? It's like she couldn't even bring herself to be
you couldn't even say I like you.
She was
I like
in
you.
The moment. I like
you.
Like I don't really care that she did or didn't like her dress because like we have different personal styles than our parents sometimes. But to not even be able to admit that you liked her, like to not let her know that. Because yes, her different drafts of the letter kind of communicate that, but they were still all selfish, right? Because when the dad was talking to her after she had found the letters, he was like, she didn't want you to judge her. It wasn't about making a letter that communicated her feelings accurately to her daughter. She was still, even in that moment, writing those different versions of the letter, trying to communicate how self-conscious she was, if that makes sense. She's like, I didn't want to come up this way or that way in the letters. Not, I wanted to say in the least number of words how much I love you and I'm going to miss you. And you wanting to go to school all the way across the country hurts my feelings because it tells me that you don't love me or don't want to spend time with me. When you kind of see how raw it was, because they looked like they were having a good moment when they were sitting on the bed before they got in the car. And then as soon as the audiobook ended, it was garbage again. I was just like, I don't know. Like you said, La, like me and my mom definitely had a volatile relationship when I was a teenager, but that's just because like I was a hothead. I mean, maybe I actually still am. But she never,
I don't get that
ever unequivocally made me think it was anything other than she
no, for sure. Like my mom never made me feel like she didn't like. I always knew my mom loved me. 100%. But I also knew she liked me as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I never, even when me and her would argue and butt heads and like, how dare you? And I would like yell, or she would yell, or she would tell me to stop yelling because, you know.
But would your mother tell you, I don't think you'll ever be good enough to get a real job, or I don't think.
No,
never.
Yeah, like, no, never. Like her mom was like Ray said, I'm gonna be using that for people forever now. Her mom was a pill. Like, her mom was a pill. Like, and the fact that she makes the comment about her mom being an abusive mom, abusive alcoholic, baby, you might not be an alcoholic, but you abusive too. You just abusive 100%. With your words. Your mama might have hit you, but you hit me with your words. And that sometimes words hurt more 100%. Than if you just punch me in the face.
Right.
Okay.
Don't want to
do that either, but
how about you, Tyler? What do you think of Lady Bird?
I really liked it, actually. I feel like I felt like a lot of like what the movie is about is watching all of these people struggle to communicate. And like I think that's like the whole point is like all these people are struggling. And I at least for me, I never felt like she couldn't ever say like she couldn't even say she liked her, but I think it was more she couldn't find the words to say it. I like she does love her daughter. She does like her daughter.
If she told her she liked her, would she lose the authority she has about being her mother? I felt like she struggled with that.
Right.
Because I mean, asking if you like somebody is a yes or no answer. Well, she kept saying stuff. She kept on saying stuff around it. She's like, "Of course I love you, baby." She didn't ask that. She asked if you liked her, and she couldn't even say yes or no, and that speaks volumes. Right. But continue, Ty.
Right. Like, I would say. I don't know if that maybe like for me personally, I like related to that. It's just like with my family, we struggle so hard to just say like I love you or any sort of like that sort of affection. And a lot of the times, like me growing up, and I think I'm the way I am the way I am now because it was always like, oh, you're never enough kind of thing. And I think that's what Lady Bird was kind of feeling a lot. Was like she's never enough. And like even when you're doing good, like sometimes the support isn't necessarily like always there, but not because they don't want it. They're not giving you the support. They just don't know how to give the support.
Right.
And I think that's what makes Lady Bird such a great character. There's a moment where that guy, the first guy that she dates,
Danny,
she finds out that he's like gay, and then he comes to the coffee shop, and then like at first it's like, oh, I'm pissed at this guy, and like that moment was like super emotional for me because like
that was a good moment. She pushed all that aside. She pushed all that aside to be like, it's okay. I'm here for you.
That's the only person in that whole town that he has
that knows.
He has nobody
else. Even though besides the guy he kissed, but still like a friend.
But he can't go to his family. He can't go to his friends. He can't go to anybody at the school. So that's
and he was afraid because she was mad at him that she would say something. But like I think it was more depth to that relationship that they were friends before they started liking each other, that when it came down to it, he could still depend on her to be his friend. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
And like that's what I was kind of like. I think with her and her mom, Lady Bird's like the way that she handled that situation, I think a lot of us like we expect like, and that's where I think a lot of miscommunication happens, is like we expect others to also be the same exact way to us. And I think that's why like that scene and like the way with her relationship with her mom, it's like it's a perfect contrast, because like I think Lady Bird expects her mom to like show that sort of like affection that she would give to other people, but it wasn't like, and it's not that it's not coming to her, it's just not coming to her in the way that she expects. Like she wants her mother to like be super
and I feel like it's vice versa with her mother as well. Her mother expects her to be like she was when she was younger, a little bit more stronger, a little bit more like, I can handle this, I'm gonna help around the house, I'm gonna do these things. And it's like they're both expecting something that like no, like I'm better than you in some ways, because she's more affectionate than her mom. She's more accepting, she's more open, and her mother is more closed off. And
but Lady Bird is still a screw up.
It was no, she is still a screw. She definitely still has those traits. But that's why the father was like, she's frustrated because she doesn't know how to help you, because she's not like this. I can't help with emotion. I don't know what this is that you have, and because my mom is like that. My mom is very like clear cut.
Very logical in the way she
very logical. Very. My mom's not emotional. I'm very emotional, and so sometimes when I'm telling her stuff, she's like, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
And you know what I mean? So I feel like that's how their dynamic was. Like, one's emotional, one's more logic based. Because she was just like, if you look like trash, they'll think it's trash, and they won't hire your father. Why are you blaming her for that man not being able to work?
Yeah.
If that's exactly the case, he should go work at the place where she making coffee. It's still a job. He's still making money.
Well, yeah, that scene when the father gets the son, when Miguel comes in to get the job, that and essentially, I assume Miguel got that job. It just feels like he's gonna get it.
He did. They said it at the table that he got the job.
I might have missed that little part. But that, strangely enough, I think that the dad was my all-time favorite character in this. Tracy Letts is interesting because if you guys have ever seen Ford versus Ferrari, he plays Henry Ford Jr. and he's like a tough CEO, like rough bastard. But in this, he's like the dearest, sweetest, dad, and he's just nice to literally everyone. And I think he is the glue that without him, that family would have failed way sooner.
100%.
Because he basically just kept sneakily helping them understand each other.
He's literally the bridge to their like two sides. He's the bridge,
Which is funny because I swear that's a bridge that only has one side, because I think Lady Bird and her mom are exactly the same person. So
I feel like that's why I always feel like kids are 9 out of 10, like mothers and daughters especially. And I mean, it can happen with like fathers and sons, but I'm a daughter, so I feel like I'm literally the 2.0 version of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm heavily influenced by her, but I'm also influenced by like my father and other things that she's not influenced by. So yes, I have like some traits of her, some bullheadedness. I don't know how to fix my face, neither does she. Little things like that. But I'm the 2.0 version of her.
Is that doing makeup? Is that what that means?
No.
What does fix your face
having
mean?
an attitude in your face.
Having an attitude in my face.
Okay. See, I didn't know that terminology. So okay.
Yeah.
So when somebody's like, fix your face because you look like you're pissed off or like you're gonna.
Correct.
Okay.
This is what you get.
See, I do that all the time, and people are like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm just thinking. This is my thinking face."
No facts, and sometimes that's like me just thinking as well. But it's like if somebody says something stupid, you'll know I think it's stupid because my face will let you know. I can't hold it. I can't be like, it's amazing. I'll be like, the fuck.
I tend to try to turn around and walk out of the room so that people don't see my face because I have that same problem.
Yeah, I'm right there. I'm right in your face.
I look condescending at people, and they don't like
that.
It.
Like my mom is like that, and I'm like that. Like my mom's more so like, you know what? I'm going to step aside and I'm going to keep quiet. And I'm the person that's like, you know what? I'm the one that does that. So I'm her 2.0.
Yeah.
Like I'm just, and so like the way I move, she doesn't move that way. So with Lady Bird, the way Lady Bird moves, her mom is confused because she doesn't move that way. So that's where like that disconnect is. When in actuality, it's not a disconnect. It's literally, she's a representation that you did your job correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only is she a strong child and she knows like how to emote and talk, but she knows that like this was a situation that was bad for her. And the first thing she did was she cried to her mom, right? She didn't go and do something reckless. She went and she cried to her mom. She asked her mom, when should she have sex? Like I literally had that same conversation with my mom. Like that part hit me too, because I was like, my God, I've had this conversation with my mom. So like
that was one of their best conversations too. I enjoyed that she was understanding in that moment.
The full movie, they have good moments and then it flips to bad moments, and then good moments and then it flips to like
because they're listening to the book together and they're crying in sequence. And did anybody else gasp when she jumped out of the car? Because I definitely was like, "What the fuck?"
100%.
I was shocked.
I was like,
there for that.
I didn't either, and I was like, "Oh, that's the kind of movie we're watching."
I didn't gasp, but maybe I have an icebox where my heart used to be. But when she jumped, I chuckled when she jumped out of the car because I was like, I've had moments where I wish I could do that.
See, I gasped during that part.
I'm just a sucker. I couldn't do it.
I started getting mad at the mom like right away, and I was just like, "Oh, shut up, leave her alone, leave her alone." And then what's funny is that Lady Bird would do stupid shit that I'd be like, "What is your problem? Why are you being like this to your friends? Why are you being such a bitch about not getting the lead? Your friend got the lead. That was awesome." She was
being a teenage girl.
No, I know she was. I know. And she was being a teenager. Like that was. Boys are not much different, honestly, in that same type of scenario. They just hide it, or they don't talk about it. That's the difference. I'm telling you, there are plenty of boys that would have done exactly what Lady Bird did. I just feel like
that just shows how much of the same person that they are. Like her mom can be very focused in certain areas, just like she can be focused in certain areas, but her mom can be erratic in certain areas, and so can Lady Bird be erratic or just move based off of emotion, however it is. And people like that butt heads all the time. You know what I'm saying? That's why your worst critic is yourself. And if I could see my worst self manifested in my child, you pretty much saying all the stuff that your mama said to you, and you're giving it to your child, and you think you're doing better, but you're not. You're not catching that because you're doing exactly the same thing, and you're not listening to when your daughter is asking you questions like, I'm sorry, if I ask my mom if she like me, she better say yes or no.
Period.
No, I like that she got
story.
This was me as a kid. I would have been the kid that grabbed the paper and been like, show me. You show me why you're saying these shitty things about me. and she asked her to quantify it. Like, here, show me the numbers, and I'll pay you back.
That was
I was the same kind of. I
scenes
approached
when
that
she
same
did that.
way with my parents. I was like, I'm not tolerating this. You're gonna say these shitty things about me. Show me, prove it to me. So I totally related.
And that's
to her.
another thing too. Don't have kids if you're going to berate them for being born. That wasn't their choice, right? That wasn't their choice. And again, in a dynamic where the mother is always harder on the daughter than she is with her son, you let your son girlfriend move into this house
and smoke cloves.
And smoke clothes, have sex with your son on a pull-out couch, and y'all giggling about it, but she can't go to a university of her choosing.
I like that Miguel listened to her about the piercings when he went to go get the job. I thought that was subtle. There's a lot of subtleties in this movie about like what the characters are doing, listening to each other. This is a weird, like, kind of pointless aside, but I loved the coach trying to teach the drama class. I thought that was
hilarious.
He
was like, all right, everybody take a knee, or take a seat, or I was like, that's hilarious. And when he did his final monologue, he was like, yeah,
I loved it.
I was like, that's a good levity right there.
But he tried, like he was trying. He really was trying to fill the shoes of the guy.
I have a question though. Can somebody answer this?
The adults mostly are nice in this movie. Go ahead.
Can somebody answer this for me? The original drama teacher, did he have depression or did he have cancer or something?
Yeah, he had an emotional breakdown.
Okay.
Because her mom works at the psych hospital.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I was like, what?
Because he was doing
what's happening?
Whatever he was teaching in that class.
And he broke out crying.
He had an emotional reaction to it, and was like, okay, this is a problem for sure.
It obviously came up a little fast because he was crying like that. Like,
he wasn't ready. He won the game.
He did. I was almost expecting him to be like, and I won. But he didn't.
No, I thought he was going to be joking too, but it went into a more serious tone, and I like that. It was like you got attached to a person, you understood like why they weren't there anymore. It was like little things. We got attached to the coach in like 2.5 seconds, only because of the enthusiasm. I like that it was like these like side characters that you did understand. Timothy Chalamet, man, he played.
He played a dude. The dude.
You would think that if. I don't know, maybe that is a reaction of that, because it's like I've been in situations where like my family was dying and I was taking care of certain family members and things like that. It changed me, right? It gave me a different perspective. No, I couldn't go out and hang out with y'all. I got to be home and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like it changed him, just not in a way that I probably would have preferred, but I still feel like it's a change that probably would have happened. He has all this like happening in his house that he does whatever he wants. He relieves himself, reprieves himself in however way he wants. And that's just being a little douchebag, I guess. But,
so
can I talk about one of the best lines that were delivered, like I think in cinematic history, probably?
Go for it.
Oh God.
Cinematic history?
When she was like, oh, you're not going to tell me, right? And he's like, no. And then she's like, yeah, because I'll fucking kill your family. Like, it was so fast, and like I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere.
No, she's so awkward in the best way.
Timothy,
she's just so awkward.
Timothy Chalamet in this movie is the epitome of real high school douchebag. Like, he nails it. This is the like bougie, I'm trying to be better than the like, I'm a vegetarian because I read it on the internet kind of total
facts.
When
he asked her why she was,
won't participate in society.
When he asked her why she was mad, he was like, "Why are you mad?" And he was like, "She's like, because I'm mad." And he was like, "No, it's because you're like choosing to be mad." You don't have to.
I wanted to hit him so bad. And he did fucking tell her he was a virgin. What a total prick. He was a prick.
I was trying to remember when he said that.
Yeah, he did.
Said it when
she said, "I've never done this before." He said, "Me neither."
He said, "Me neither." Yeah, when they first were kissing and then they were like up against the wall and everything, and she said this to him. He said, "Me neither."
I'm not ready to have sex. I don't want to have sex yet. I've never done this before.
Oh, you must have heard me wrong. I was like, punch him in the throat.
But that was raw and real. That again, that's a high school teenage boy. Like that is 100%. Like if any boy says they didn't act like that on some level, I'm sorry, you did on some level.
I haven't seen. He didn't finish that whole book, that whole movie. He was reading the same book the entire movie. He never finished
because he was trying to look cool reading the book. He wasn't reading the book, right?
Yeah, right. Correct.
He was on that same page the entire time. It was the same thickness every time he came back to him on that book.
So I've got one last question, and then we should rate and go because we are over time.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Did
sir.
anybody else not want her to go to Columbia and to just stay and go to Davis?
No.
Nope. I wanted her to go to Columbia.
100%.
She needed to experience outside of her bubble
Absolutely
to understand why her
Yeah.
bubble or why her community was what it was. Because her mom was right to a certain extent. Like you don't want to be here. You kind of ungrateful for what we had. You've been lying to people about where you live. Like, you know, like the mama didn't say this, but you know what I mean? Like, been lying about where you live to impress people who don't need to be impressed. Like, you got a great friend. You did all this kind of stuff. She needed to go out and to live her life without anybody telling her no, to understand why her mom put her in that Catholic school, why her mom was hard on her, but even though she was too hard on her, she was very disrespectful to mother.
We all agree
there were reasons. No, she was too hard on her, but there were reasons for it, and she needed to go experience life. Now, after that phone call, would I be surprised if they would have been like she went back home? I wouldn't have been surprised.
Do you think she should have?
She got up. No.
You still think she should have stayed in New York?
Honestly, I'm okay either way. I never wanted her to just stay. I wanted her to go out and experience, so she knew within herself that she had she had it in her to go do whatever she set her mind to. Because according to her mama, she ain't gonna do nothing.
Right. She needed to build her self-confidence, her belief in herself, because she was never going to get that reassurance from her mom, which is clearly what she was seeking the whole movie.
Yeah.
So her being accepted was that first thing. She was like, I can do it. They accepted me. She was on the wait list, but she got in. And then once she went, and she was far enough removed, and having read the letters and experienced at least one night kind of out in the world with no barriers, with no guardrails.
Yeah.
And nobody to pick her up after, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, had to pick herself up. Yeah.
I just want you to know I do actually miss you, and I didn't want to leave because of you. I needed to leave because of me, was the communication, that kind of essence. And I think that's why that she included that story about, and they kind of transposed the scenes of them in the car, because mothers are real, like daughters are really not that different from their mothers most of the time.
Very true.
But our trajectory to get to who we are, separate from who our mother sees us as, is something different. You can only experience as a girl. Like, for real. Like, and I'm sure men have a similar thing like that. But like, I understood why they kind of were so combative. And again, the emotional labor being the responsibility of the child, I desperately hate that. But I understand why, because it was Lady Bird's story, and they kind of had to build that into the mother's characters where that pushback makes sense. I also still just hate it. Like, I don't love
mothers,
that
for the most part, mothers have a tendency to, and I think they do this subconsciously. I never think this is a choice from mothers, but they put a lot on their daughters.
Absolutely.
Because they don't want their daughters to turn out like how they are.
Sure.
Especially if they feel like there is an area in their life that they was like, if my mother would have only did this, these things would have fallen in line with me. So when they get to their daughters, they are tight on their daughters, but they're loose on their sons. Right. So the sons get to experience a freedom that the daughters don't get to experience until we get the hell up out the house, i.e. go to college, i.e. find a boyfriend we move in with, or whatever that is that you're doing. So like their combativeness, I can see a sequel to this or something, or like I don't want it to happen because it was fine the way it ended. But if they made a sequel, I could see the mother and the daughter's relationship being slightly better, because the daughter would have gained a perspective of her mother, also of herself, that she can better combat any of the opposition that her mother might go like throw her way.
Fair
she
enough.
Understands where it comes from. Lady Bird could change, the mama can't change.
Right.
So
we should rate this film and then move to next week, because we're gonna have
glasses.
We're gonna have more. It is glass, right?
I should rate this film. That was nice.
I encourage those that have not watched Greta's other film. I don't want. We've said it a few times, but I'm not trying to promote it. I still think you should watch Greta's 2 films in the filmography.
She's written a lot of films, or you just mean films that she's like directed and written.
So this one, I think it's this one and the one and the new one. I think that's it. I was looking. Doesn't have
Little Women.
She's had 4 films.
Did she actually direct Little Women?
Yeah, she directed and wrote Little Women. No, she didn't direct and write that one. So the movies that she directed and written are Nights and Weekends, Lady Bird, Little Women, and Barbie. Those are the ones that she's written and directed. She's written a decent amount, like a nice like handful amount, but those are the only ones that she's written and directed. Because she wrote the screenplay, or for Snow White. Like her and another person wrote the screenplay for Snow White, but she didn't direct it.
These look like a lot of shorts. I'll look into it further, though. I still encourage people to watch her other films because I think that this, I don't know, for me, and I guess we'll go straight into ratings. This film really shows me why they picked Greta Gerwig, because she has it. But I also see that she's got a lot of personal trauma that undoubtedly was from her childhood or some degree of her own.
Yeah.
Because this is too personal. Films like this, you can tell, come right out of the writer.
But she wrote and directed it, so like they didn't really choose her. She chose it for herself.
But no, I know. I meant for the Barbie movie. They picked her because of this movie.
I was like, okay. I was like, how you?
No. This is hers. This is hers. But this, the quirkiness, the weirdness, the oddities of this film, I think translate into her type of direction and style, and I think that applies to her newest film. So. And again, not trying to promote
Barbie, she wrote and directed and executive produced that too. So like she chose herself again. I'm just saying, like,
but she had to be given the rights to that film, and so the company had to agree that she was worthy. And I think this film is one of them that they did.
You feel like this is the film that like let them be like, what?
I think this is the film. Like, obviously, if you're gonna do Little Women, that's a classic. It's a period piece. Like, it's famous as hell. You obviously have to be somebody to even get that film under your belt. But I think that. Being that this was hers, this was completely hers from top to bottom. I think it had a lot to do with the newer film. Anyway, I'm gonna rate this film. It made me cry a lot, so I'm gonna give it a 9.
Yay! I love emotion.
I'm gonna give it a 9. Ray, what do you rate Lady Bird?
Who has some?
I would rate it maybe like a 7. All right. I thought it was good.
All right. How about you, Tyler?
I'm also going to give it a 9 because it's very emotional. I also think this is one of those films that like depict like the effects of expectations that we impose on people and on ourselves. So I think
I like that
throughout.
Facts.
Like, very well done.
How about you, La? Cap us off.
I'll give it a 7.5.
7.5.
7.5.
So the Real Study panel likes Lady Bird and does not like Good Time or Highlight. Pretty.
Did you say 75? Did you say a 75?
75 out of 10. Yes, that's what she gave me.
Yes.
75 out of 10. A 70-11. I'll give it
a 70-11. A 70-11-5. Yes.
We don't have films picked for next week because these pickings are getting slimmer. But I have an idea that I'm going to pitch to the crew after the show, and so pay attention for any potential changes. They all have no idea what we're talking about. That said,
they will.
We will be getting back to you guys next week for episode 5 of season 3. I can't believe we're this far in. Likely more independent, foreign, etc., because that's the realm we're in.
Also, all of those watching us on YouTube and Twitch, please follow us on all social media. We're on YouTube and Twitch, but follow us everywhere. Join our Discord, chit chat with us. If there's any non-struck films that you would like us to partake in, or even non-struck TV shows that we could probably
that'll be trickier.
Partake in. I know, way more trickier, but you never know.
We can watch The Guild. You guys want to watch The Guild?
No. But yeah, follow us on all social media. Join in on the conversations. We also play like games on there. Not so much now, but we kind of go back and forth.
Hey, the more of you that join, the more we'll do it. How about that?
Exactly. And like maybe we can start doing watch parties and things like that, and just having like some group chats and things like that. But so just follow us on all social media, share our things. These are free things you can do to support the channel.
100%.
If you do want to put in money for the channel, just click the link and you should be able to donate some funds to us if you would like.
Kyle asks, can we watch bad Walmart films? Depends on the production company if they are not a part of the AMPTP. then
what does
yes.
that even mean?
The answer
Bad
is yes.
Walmart films.
He's talking about like when
Rated
Transformers
DVD,
came out, the movie Transmorpher came out at the same time.
Oh,
so those like terrible
Joe just did
knockoff
a video about that today. I think.
Honestly, I would love if we watched.
We could.
Bad films, like if we watched like the Sharknado series and stuff like that. If we watched,
we could look at
stuff
who
like that.
owns the rights to Sharknado, but Sharknado did well enough that the studio probably has some grubby little rights on that. So we got to be careful.
Yeah.
That said, take a look next week. We'll have some new things coming for the Real Study. You guys have a great week. We're waiting for Tyler's pun.
Have a great night. Great night.
Have a good high life.
Right.
Birds.
Yeah. Miller High Life. Anyway.
Ladies, you have a
Bye, guys.